Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the streets of Valencia. Yes, it's finally here, the next round of the GPVWC Super League Championship. After all of the dramas we've had in the first 3 rounds of the series, it's time for round 4 on the streets of Valencia, and it's great to have this venue back in the GPVWC, one of the more exciting circuits in the world of virtual sim racing as well. And may I say, after the events we've seen in Formula Challenge and Super Cup over the last 48 hours, we're in for a real treat tonight. I'm Jake Sanson, next to me is Josh Anderson. And Josh, I have a feeling this one could spring us a few fireworks. Have a good evening. How are you this evening, buddy?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you very much, Jake, and I totally agree. This one could throw up a big surprise if any race, with maybe the exception of Monaco, ever was. It kind of is a Spanish Monaco when you think about it. Very tight in places, difficult overtaken, and of course 25 corners of sheer difficulty for the drivers in this qualifying and race sessions to come up as well. Bit of a throwback, this actually. This is the first time since 2009 that we've seen Valencia on the Super League calendar as the Spanish Grand Prix. So no Catalonia this year. We're coming to Valencia instead. Bit of a throwback for the drivers, but a new challenge in its own right.
I have to say I like it. I mean, from a personal point of view, I have never really been much of a fan of Catalonia as a race circuit. As a testing facility, I think it's brilliant. So it's great to see that we've got a new racetrack for this one. And as a lot of venues go, underrated perhaps Valencia. A lot of drivers find it particularly irritating. But one thing is for certain, we're going to get quite a different race today, especially in that opening lap when everything is going to be just a little bit scary for the drivers.
Yeah, starting a race on a street circuit, never easy. Turns 1 and 2 are going to be really interesting, especially with the tightness of turn 2. You've got to get all these Super League cars into that turn 2. And, well, hopefully it'll go without an incident. But, you know, tricky in its own right, Valencia. It's a longer street track. You know, lap times we're seeing on pole position, Rudy van Buren at the moment on 137. So, you know, kind of in the middle of the road between, you know, short and it's a sort of medium length circuit, but it keeps going on. There's 57 laps of this, so it's going to be a very interesting challenge.
Well, we're into the final 2.5 minutes of this qualifying session, and on paper, it looks as if it's going to be another Vodbull Racing 1-2 with Rudy van Buren and Risto Capit again setting the form. But interestingly, there are 3 drivers already taking the fight to them in this qualifying session, Josh. We have 2 Brits, Lee Morris and Alex Cooper, and the man who won last time out in Shanghai, Diego Baldi.
Yeah, Baldi is in 4th at the moment. He's 8 tenths down on Van Buren, but don't let that distract you from the fact he could be winding up for a spectacular lap in that Wouters car. Because winner last time out wants to make it a second win. I assume he wants to make it a second win. Who doesn't want to win a Super League race? But Alex Cooper as well. Got to keep an eye on him. Again, a race winner. And, well, Baldi and Cooper, the 2 race winners so far, are not really close to Van Buren at the moment. Capit, even his own teammate, is 6 tenths down. But all these drivers could be winding up for one more lap. And let's not forget Lee Morris as well. 7 tenths down indeed, but that is now he's in the worst car in the grid, and he's still 7 tenths down. That says wonders for his outright pace. And he could still have something left in the tank here in that Mad Cape car.
Yeah, and we've got a good 5 or 6 drivers who could end up getting on the pole in this one. There's some very interesting dynamics in this race as well, considering the fact that it's been so long since we've used this racetrack for such an event. And it is going to be a difficult one because so many different people have got it into their heads that this is where they can be strong. The updates are really going to take into account in this one in particular because there's so many drivers who have pushed it to the ragged edge. And I have to say, having watched the last sort of 10 minutes or so in qualifying, we've already seen a couple of moments where drivers are pushing it to the limit, including, I'm afraid to say, a moment between Ben Willis and Matt Varley in the qualifying session, which is, to put it mildly, a little bit of a hiccup, shall we say.
Yeah, you never want to see innocence within teammates, and unfortunately Willis and Varley may have had that slight coming together, but hopefully it's not going to affect things too much. Willis, of course, currently in the pit lane, and Varley still doing laps, so I can only assume that Willis has sustained damage and had to escape off track, which, of course, by the regulations means he's not then allowed, if he escapes on track, to come back and set any more laps in the qualifying session. And well, looking at the fact he set 6 laps, it must not have caused too much damage. He must have been able to get it back, but obviously that rule, a bit of a problem for anyone who sustains terminal damage to the car in the qualifying session. But time is about to run out of the said qualifying session, so really down to this lap for a lot of drivers. Though Lee Morris has just set a purple second sector, I'd be very intrigued to see how he gets on here.
Yeah, this is an important one for Morris. He really is pushing it to the ragged edge. He needs to give himself a really strong run for the pole position here. A 44.5 in the second split after a 25.224 in the first split, which puts him to second fastest. So Morris has actually got himself onto the front row of the grid. at the critical moment. He was only 0.02 of a second slower than Van Buren in the first sector, but Van Buren's gone faster in the second sector as well. He's just done a 44.374. That's a new purple for the second split. So Van Buren might be about to pull away. Risto Capit's on a personal best as well, but that is not going to be as quick as Morris's best time, I don't think. So let's see what it is as they come through. Morris is still there in second position. Capit is about to come across the line. Can he displace Morris once again? The answer is no. He was very slow in the final sector. Van Buren has come through to set a personal best, I think. No, he was slow in the third sector as well. No, he did. He got a 1:37.715, so he did go quicker. So that is by 0.179 of a second advantage he's got over Morris. Cooper is fourth. GPVWC, I have to say, I'm surprised he's only fifth. He might be able to improve it, though, because he's gone very good in the second sector. What does he do in the final sector? Third place. Third place for GPVWC. That's an important lap there for Baldi. So we've got 3 different cars in the top 3 positions. It's Vodbull, Madcape, Wouters, Josh. That's an interesting one.
That is an interesting, we'll say 3 different teams in the top 3. And, of course, we've had 3 different winners from the top 3 as well. Really, if it was Alex Cooper in second and Lee Morris in fifth, we'd have the 3 winners in 1, 2, 3. Morris the exception to the rule, though, in second place. And even from second, in even the worst car in the field, one has to not rule him out for a race win here, because front row start at Valencia, if he can edge past Van Buren and avoid any carnage that may occur on the first opening couple of laps, he could be in for a very good result.
Worth pointing out, though, as well, from the end of qualifying, we have David Fek in 8th position and Florian Gaia in 12th position. The Nordsian Racing team, very low down compared to where I expected them to be. I kind of saw them around the 5th, 6th mark, but I think, interestingly, David Fek, well, is he still on a flying lap? Now, surely he's finished this run. So that is a big one with Fek and Gaia down in 8th and 12th. I expected to see both of those cars in the top 6, Josh.
Yeah, perhaps so. I mean, Fek and Gaia, obviously, Nordsian, the champions going into this year and obviously not having the best season at the moment. And they're still up there with the most developed cars, my team. I'd expect them to be slightly higher, but Fek and Gaia, we know David Fek's more of a consistency person rather than sometimes outright pace. He is very quick, of course, don't get us wrong, but we know him as Mr. Consistency for a reason. He's very good in race scenarios.
So it's worth talking our way through the grid a little bit then, as it currently stands. We have Rudy Van Buren and Lee Morris on the front row. GPVWC and Risto Capit due to start on the second row. Alex Cooper alongside another man we need to talk about, Lewis Redshaw, doing a great job to put himself in the top 6 ahead of the ever-impressive Fran Lopez alongside David Fek. Tobias Olsen and Bart de Vos are rounding out the top 10. Dennis Jordan and Florian Gaia will take up row 6. Ryan Walker and Bench Zubanek are going to be on row 7 from David Francic and Jeffrey Fournier. Thomas Hinz and Tom Jacobs are there on row 9, with Daniel Sharanku down in 19th. I thought he'd be a bit higher. Adrian McNaughton in a fairly solid 20th position, with Ben Willis and Mr. Varley in there as well towards the tail end, Charlie. And, well, that is, of course, all based on the fact that they're not going to get any penalties, but we might see 1 or 2 carried over from last time out in Shanghai, of course. But there's a couple of names that's interesting there. Redshaw in particular, Josh. Great to see him in the top 6. Fran Lopez in 7th position. That's really positive start to his weekend here in Valencia. If he can just keep that going, we might be able to see the back of his run of form, which has been a little bit dodgy to say the least. And great to see as well, a little bit more resurgence from Tobias Olsen and Bart de Vos, both firmly in the top 10.
Yeah, Olsen and de Vos in the top 10, very good as well. Both drivers very solid on their day. And, Bart, obviously, with the Kernan Sport has really been impressive as well. Definitely want to watch this round. And, of course, we've got a couple of new drivers this round as well. The likes of Ben O'Clont, who's driving for Storm Racing Team as well. Deputising for Emmanuel Gagzala, who's not here today. And in a more permanent basis, I'm looking down in 13th place. Mitchell de Jong is not here. And that's because Ryan Walker, I think, has replaced him at Madcape now. So great to see Walker back in GPVWC. Very capable driver in his own right. Should watch out for him as... But he's actually going out to do some warm-up now. But, yeah, Walker, to have him back in GPVWC is a fantastic thing, as well as I've just seen Ben Horrell, who I thought was not going to be returning to Super League, but obviously he has done. I think, he's actually in that Street Fighter car.
So Ben Horrell has joined the field post-qualifying then, so we have got a full roster of 24 cars, which is good to see. Coming into this fourth round of the championship, we really need to talk about the championship standings here at this point, Josh, because I know you've got the standings in front of you here. We're going to put the graphic on the screen now so people can see the point standings. After 3 races, it is not quite as clear-cut as we thought it was. We thought it was going to be Rudy Van Buren all the way. Not the case so far.
Yeah, not the case so far. It is still a very, very close championship standing at the moment, and both the drivers and the teams going into this round. Just to run you through the order as it is, Lopez-Baldi with that fantastic win at Shanghai now leads the Drivers' Championship. He has taken that win with the 7th and the 4th. Prior to that, he finds himself on 47 points. But Rudy Van Buren is just 2 behind on 45, and the only thing stopping him really from being in the championship lead at the moment is that 17th place because of the disconnection graphics freeze at Sochi. Then Lee Morris, a singular point behind Van Buren. So the top 3 within 3 points of each other. Morris on 44 and still very much challenging for the championship. Alex Cooper as well, 3 points behind on 41 with that win at Sochi. Risto Cap at 2 third places has earned him a second 2-point gap to Morris. He is on 39 in 5th place, and it's David Fek, reigning champion, still very much in contention, 4 points behind Caput. He is currently on 35 points in the standings, and it's Florian Geyer, his teammate, on 30, and Emmanuel Gaxella, who's not here, of course, this race, on 21. Ahead of Maciej Mlinek on the same points yield because of a better result. Mlinek in 9th in the standings. Bartavas is 10th at the moment and on 20 points. Fran Lopez is 11th in 11th place there. Then it's Reggio, who qualified so well here, obviously, at Valencia. He's in 12th standings. And it's Hinsa Kantanen going down to 15th place. And then it's Olsen, Frančić, Benefield, Jordan Jacobs going further down into the lower echelons of the field. I must say, at this point in the season, I am surprised to see Dennis Jordan. I know he's only done 1 race, but only at 13th. Jordan is a very good talent, so I'm very surprised to see him so far down the order.
Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one, really, for Jordan. I'm not entirely sure why he's there or thereabouts. Maybe it's just a bit of a back foot to start this point of the season. There's actually a couple of drivers who I thought would be a little bit higher up the grid than they are, looking at the times from qualifying, to be fair. Jordan is definitely one of those, being 11th position in qualifying. Obviously, you have to look at David Frančić. I mean, I know it's been a little bit of a blasé one because of Maciej Mlinek. I thought maybe there was a potential that he would have done a bit of a stronger job. But no, it's an interesting one. And I think this is the first race of the season, isn't it? I'm fairly sure this is the first race of the season, Josh, that we haven't had Maciej Mlinek playing the role of super sub.
Yeah, Mlinek obviously has his commitments in Formula Challenge, and as per the contract regulations, the driver can only do 4 races in a higher series before he has to choose whether he wants to continue in the lower series or go up to full higher series permanently. And I guess if Horrell is still very much a street fighter, then Maciej might be deciding to focus on his Formula Challenge commitments, which is a shame if we're not going to see him in Super League. Again, obviously he's done a couple of races in Super League now, but he's still got his Formula Challenge commitments going on as well. Mlinek, obviously, 9th in the standings. As I said, this would have been his 4th race. Maybe he's saving it for a different race. I don't know. But obviously, if he does do a 5th Super League race, he won't be able to race in Formula Challenge anymore.
Yeah, that is a difficulty. And considering how strong he was in Formula Challenge on Tuesday night, winning both races. And I think collectively, he must have lapped me 4 times over the course of the 2 races. So fair play to Maciej. Yes, if anybody's tuning in and figuring out what on earth is Jake talking about, well, go back and watch the Formula Challenge races from Tuesday night. Dan Blake, your commentator for that. It was a great evening, and it's a great opportunity to see a rather fat commentator make his GPVWC racing debut and do his best Giovanni Lavaggi impression along the way. It was pretty shocking at times, but yes, we all have to start somewhere. Anyways, welcome along to the stream if you've just joined us. We're on YouTube, of course, on the GPVWC YouTube channel. Do chat away as we are racing. We're going to try and keep up with the messages as the race goes on. 57 laps of the 4th round of the GPVWC Sim Racing Super League. Jake Sanson and Josh Anderson with you. Our director, Argo Teder, looking after cameras around the circuit. And I have to say, this is going to be a real challenge, particularly on the first lap, Josh, because they won't have raced around here for a while. It's really tight and twisty in that first corner, and certainly in the first 3 or 4 corners of the lap, they're going to really struggle for overall pace, and it's going to be about who's patient, who's careful, and who stays out of trouble.
Yeah, it's all going to be about staying out of trouble on that first lap, I think, and just trying to keep it nice and calm through here. And, you know, just really focus on getting through turn 2, especially. First real turn after the first turn is just going to be such a difficult one because there's basically only a couple of car lengths space through that corner. Got to be super careful where you put your automobile in those turns, and there's another couple like it as well, so care must be exercised around here at Valencia in the opening couple of laps, especially on these super soft tyres, which pretty much everyone but Adrian McNaughton is going to be starting the race on. He's the only one who's going to be starting on the super softs rather than the ultra softs, so pit lane strategy as well is going to be interesting because of the way that the final turn is configured, because, you know, pit entry starts at the corner before.
Absolutely. So just checking a couple of the messages in the text chat here. I've noticed actually there's been a very nice sort of bit of banter from Fran Lopez just before warm-up kicked off. He says, Rudy, stop setting the AI on too easy. He's not. I know you can't really do things like that in this game, but it does just show you, again, for the 4th qualifying session in a row, Rudy Van Buren has been so strong over one lap here, Josh. I mean, he isn't unbeatable. We saw that, of course, last time out, very famously at Shanghai, where GPVWC and the Valters Automotive team managed to outfox him beautifully on the strategy. Do you think it's going to be as clear-cut as this, or do we think that the fact that there's going to be a lot of tyre degradation is going to see a massive pit stops?
Well, tyre deg, you know, with it being 15 degrees on in the air, 17 on track, you know, track temperature isn't that high. It's kind of the middle of the road sort of thing. But again, it's the ultra soft tyres, you know, they're going to be on it, and it's a street circuit, which is going to increase the wear rate. So you're going to have a lot of problems with tyre wear on the softer compounding tyres. So we may see another race, especially with overtaking being difficult in so many places, where we might see people pit a lot and use the softer tyres. I mean, tyre strategy-wise, there is absolutely nothing in it because everybody has gone for the 3 softest possible tyres. Every single team on the grid has chosen to run these ultra soft, super soft, and regular soft compounds. It's just McNaughton in the Storm in 18th place in this warm-up session at the moment. That is the only one who's going to be starting on anything other than the ultra softs.
Right, now we're in the warm-up session. It's going to be an interesting one. We've got a couple of difficulties, I think. Well, Lee Morris has just asked race director, are we allowed to cut the pit entry line? Because that was so Capit. He's actually having to reset his router. Now, that could be a real disaster if he's not ready to go before we get started. So obviously those electronic difficulties and connection issues affect everybody, but that is a real difficulty if he can't get his connection sorted before race starts, Josh.
I think it's just a safety measure more than anything. I don't think he wants it disconnecting during the race. And, well, after Van Buren's graphics freeze at Sochi, you know, I think Bristow he's trying to err on the side of caution here. Maybe he's had problems earlier in the day and he wants to be sure. I don't know. But obviously, you know, as a racer, the last thing you want to do is disconnect because you're in there. I mean, you can always come back into the race, but you'll be laps down by the time you do anyway. Alpha 2 does, of course, try to rejoin after disconnection. But, you know, Van Buren's graphics freeze at Sochi was a bit more terminal. I think Bristow's probably just being safe, to be honest.
It's probably a good idea. I mean, it means that we're going to have to, we might get a slight pause of a minute or so before we actually go racing proper. All those watching via the YouTube stream, do chuck your questions at us. And also, of course, who you're rooting for. Tika DT says, Baldi. There seems to be a real hive of activity around GPVWC after his brilliant form in Shanghai. He really gets each other again.
It could be very interesting to see how it pans out. Of course, second guessing won Lopez-Baldi the race at Shanghai. But Valencia is a totally different beast. It's a completely different track. And, well, strategy will come into it. Mighty teams out strategy other teams. Tyre choice is going to be crucial because they all have the same compounds available to run, but it's a question of who's going to run what.
Absolutely. Drake Racing on YouTube shouts, Morris. Yes, of course, Lee Morris is basically the only driver, realistically the only driver within the top 4 who has yet to win a race this year. Of course, he's been on the podium. He's had some very good performances. Van Buren, of course, won the first round in Australia. Then we had that dramatic victory for Alex Cooper at Sochi, where Van Buren was leading the whole way and had a disconnection. Absolute disaster for him. But Cooper picked up the spoils and grabbed a fantastic first victory for the team in over a year. Brilliant work from them. GPVWC managing to beat the Vodbull Racing team and Rudy Van Buren purely on strategy and great racing, looking after the tyres beautifully. Valencia could be a little bit more trigger happy. As we said, we haven't seen this race circuit on the calendar for a while. A lot of drivers are out of practice around here. That first lap could get quite a few people out of the race in the early stages, especially if there's one or two wheels locking in the wrong place. It could cause pandemonium. In particular, I would keep an eye on the second chicane, perhaps even more so than the first chicane, where we've got that mass runoff area on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, sorry. That's where we could see quite a few fireworks, but particularly onto the bridge just after turn 6. That's really going to be a critical point. We saw a few offs there in qualifying. We saw a few offs there in the Formula Challenge race and the Super Cup as well. So that's going to be a really critical point of the circuit to be smooth. And on this first lap, Josh, smooth is going to be really difficult to achieve when we're still not really sure what the tyres are going to do.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. Ultimately, people are just going to have to try their best to try and keep it going. I think Capit has rejoined the service. We're going to be going racing soon. But yeah, consistency is going to be key. And if the likes of Lee Morris can get consistency, then, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how they do. I've just actually seen Eric Stanford has said that Rudy Van Buren or Alex Cooper to win. So that's going to be interesting to see. I mean, Alex Cooper, very decent choice in his own right. And Van Buren from Paul seems like where the smart money is going to be. But again, it all depends on how they get through this first corner and the first lap in general.
Yeah, Simonia Marchetti says, top 3 prediction from the commentators. It's a difficult one. I'm going to put my money this time on Risto Capit. I have a feeling, okay, he's not faster on 1 lap pace, but he might just be able to get there in terms of patience. He's a very patient driver. I think Capit potentially for the win. Let's go for Morris in second and Van Buren in third, just to be a little bit left field. What do you reckon to this, Josh? Who's your top 3?
You think that's left field? Wait till you see what I'm going to come up with.
Go for it.
Well, looking at it, I mean, I don't agree. I agree the smart money actually is on Rudy Van Buren, but he seems like the logical choice, Rudy. But then again, anything can happen in Super League. So based entirely on the fact I'm going completely left of field here, I'm going to say probably I'm going to go Van Buren, Morris, Redshaw.
That is an interesting one. I like the idea of Redshaw being on the podium. He could be very strong. And with that, we get the command to go to the grid. So we are getting ourselves ready for action. Okay, Josh Anderson, strut your stuff as the Martin Brundle of GPVWC. Talk us through the grid, mate.
Oh, wow. Grid. What can we say about this grid? Changes until the very last minute, but there are going to be some fantastic looking starting positions for some of these drivers, like Lewis Redshaw in 6th place, was almost champion in 2014, always the driver you need to look out for, managed to get that Woods into 6th place, though he's going to have a bit of a run to get to Rudy Van Buren, who's on pole position. Rudy, of course, we know how good he is, second in the championship, would be leading if not for his Sochi troubles, but really the driver to watch at the start. But Lee Morris, worst car in the grid, that Mad Cape, and he's on second. His talent cannot be denied. Baldi behind as well. Capit, both potentials. Even looking further down the grid, you've got the likes of Jordan, DeVos, Olsen, all potential surprise packages. It's going to be very interesting to see how Ryan Walker does in his Super League return as well. Walker, of course, very, very reliable and consistent driver in his own right. It's going to be very interesting to see how he does. New driver as well at Super League in Jeffrey Fournier in 14th place, the very talented Frenchman. Lots of potential surprise packages up and down this grid.
Well, the big news going into the start of this race, of course, is that there has been a penalty handed out to David Fek. The reigning champion will start back in 22nd position on the starting grid. Now, that is a big one. He qualified 8th, so he drops all the way back to P22. So that's really going to be an interesting start. And already we can see there's a few split decisions in terms of tyres. Rudy Van Buren going for a completely different compound, Josh, to Lee Morris. Lopez-Baldi going the same way, I do believe. Risto Capit again going a split tyre decision to his teammate. But interestingly, Adrian McNaughton and Menno Clont going a very different direction for tyre strategy.
Yeah, very different directions. I thought driver teams had to start on the qualifying compounds, but I must have obviously not seen everyone who's using every tyre because I thought everyone was on the ultra soft bar a couple. There are some who've gone for the soft tyre here. Van Buren obviously on the ultra soft, as is Morris, as is Baldi, as is Capit. You have to go back quite a bit to find the first person not on the ultra soft compound. Oh, hang on, apparently he's just switched over. Yeah,
sorry, that's right. My fault.
It was right. He's just switched over, actually. Adrian McNaughton still the only one on the ultra soft, super soft. Everyone, actually, I say that.
There's
Fek
3.
And Clont. Fek and Clont are on the super softs as well. So David Fek using the fact that he's got at the back of the grid to go for slightly longer tyre life in the first instance, and obviously Clont from the back is as well. Ben Horrell's going to be starting from the pit lane by the looks of it on the ultra soft compound as well. But interesting to see the people on the back like McNaughton are going to be starting on different tyres.
Yeah, that's an interesting strategic call to see McNaughton, Fidek and Clont going for a different tyre strategy in the early stages. I think that could end up working in Fidek's favour. It will be a very interesting one, this. So we're on the rolling lap. Let's talk you through the grid. Rudy Van Buren and Lee Morris on the front row. Baldi and Risto Capit on the second. Alex Cooper and Lewis Redshaw together on the third, with Fran Lopez and Tobias Olsen on the fourth row. Bart de Vos lines up alongside Dennis Jordan on the fifth row. Florian Geyer leads the Nordian charge alongside Madcape number 2, Ryan Walker. David Francic and Jeffrey Fournier are on row 7 from the two Toms, Hinz and Jacobs on row 8. Then it's Dan Sharanku alongside Ben Shubanek. Adrian McNaughton lines up beside the first of the Green Stripes cars, Ben Willis. His teammate Matt Varley lines up beside the reigning champion, David Fidek. And then at the back, we've got Storm Racing's Menno Clont and Street Fighter Ben Horrell. They get into their grid positions, and this one is going to be a tough one to call. Lots of people on. Go for it.
We've got a couple more predictions for the race wins in the comments. Whoopie Hoekstra says, Cooper, Olsen, Clont. Not a bad shot. Menno Clont from 23rd is quite wishful thinking, I think, but he should have a good race to the Dutchman. And, well, another one as well, I believe. I'm just trying to look for it, but definitely one from Whoopie Hoekstra there. Antonio Milanovic says, Risto Capit, I think, win.
Time for the race action now. Good start at the front from Rudy Van Buren. It's a cracking start from Capit. He's going to go left of Lee Morris. Morris gets held up as Baldi. He's going to come alongside him. They're going to be 3 wide in the middle of a second position. It looks as if they're all going to get through pretty much safe and sound through the first couple of corners. There's no major dramas through the first lap, although there's a couple of bits of contact further back. Looks to me as though Ben Horrell has started the race from the pit lane. So they all work their way through the first and second chicanes without incident. Good work from everybody to get through without too much drama, although McNaughton has slid very briefly into the barriers. We're all getting through the first couple of corners without major tension. Oh, contact! Contact! And it's Redshaw! It's Redshaw! Redshaw's dropped down! So that is Redshaw coming together. Now, who is he gone with? That's Cooper! Cooper is in there. So too is Hinz. We've had a couple of drivers in the wars already.
Yeah, problems for a couple of drivers there in the opening lap or two. Redshaw, to me, just looks like Redshaw may have missed one of his braking points, and he's done something. Yeah, he's just lost. He's missed his braking. Gone into Cooper, tipped him round. That is unfortunate. Racing incident will very to do. Then the resulting carnage puts Sharanku round in Hinz as well. So Cooper and Redshaw's incident spawned another there.
I did think going into the bridge for the first time, that was where we were going to see our first major drama. So exactly what I suspected has happened. So as the field works its way around, Alex Cooper is facing the wrong way and has dropped to the back of the field now. So Cooper has spun, trying to get himself back to the pits. It's an absolute nightmare for Cooper. Redshaw is now already on the back of Menno Clont, going for a move around the outside into the fast-flowing sweepers. That's the brave move from Redshaw as we go into the first lap and finish it off nicely. It's the 2 Vod Bulls out in front. Van Buren has now got Capit behind him, having fought his way past Baldi. Morris is 4th. Fran Lopez is in 5th position. What a start from him.
Yeah, fantastic start from the Spaniard. He's managed to take perfect advantage of the conditions going on around him, and he just stormed into the 5th place there. That is good as well. And, well, obviously, Lopez had a good start. Morris drops 2 places. Not fantastic from him, but still respectable as well. Gaia all the way up to 8th place, which is good for him as well. Norton getting up the field there. Francic 10th. Walker 11th. Very good start from him. Fournier 12th. Could actually be a battle starting to brew between Walker and Fournier here. Jeffrey, of course, we know, very talented in other disciplines at GPVWC. Not really had much Super League experience though, but definitely making good name for him on his debut here, chasing down Ryan Walker for P11.
And look, 3 places back from that battle is the reigning champion. David Fek has crept up into 15th position as a result of all that melee. He is now on the back of Tom Jacobs, swarming around trying to make his way through. So David Fek, definitely one of the beneficiaries of that first lap drama. He's made up 7 places off the start. So that's a key moment there for Fidek. There's still a chance he could even get himself onto the rostrum. We've seen how strong he's been over the course of the first 3 races. Do not count out David Fidek yet.
Yeah, we call him Mr. Consistency for a reason. He just has a knack in a race scenario of pulling something out of the bag, and pull it out of the bag he may well do here in Valencia. Now chasing down Thomas Jacobs to try and move up further in the order. Meanwhile, we got a Bristol Capit Gergo Baldi battle brewing for second here, because Gergo was starting to close the gap to the Estonian. Yeah,
Gergo's really working hard to get onto the back of Capit here, and I think that's because Gergo was taken a little bit by surprise by Risto. He got a pretty quick start, the Estonian, didn't he? He went left of Lee Morris and ended up in a sort of a 3-wide tussle for the first 3 chicanes, but Capit's start was pretty special. He managed to keep the car, stayed it to the outside line, kept it on the black stuff, and when there was a little bit of grip, he just blipped the throttle to get himself into the right position, and there wasn't really much Baldi and Morris could do to avoid a collision except give him the place. So Capit, very aggressive, and don't forget, this is only his 4th race at this level.
Yeah, only race 4, and Baldi really proving his, stuff, really, at the moment. I mean, obviously may have had prior Super League experience, but in terms of his 2017 season, he's off to an absolute flyer as Gergel. Really, really on it at the moment. And, Gergel just taking a fight to the Risto Capit, who, for so long we thought was absolutely untouchable. Might have struggled a bit so far in Super League, but, 2nd place, the Estonian, still very, very good.
Yeah, he's doing well. So this battle can sort itself out for a little bit. What's going to be critical now is what happens with Lee Morris. Don't forget, he was on the front row of the grid. So he's now put himself down in 4th position. Well, you can say circumstances put him down in 4th position. It wasn't anything he did wrong. But the other two around him, Capit and Baldi, had stunning getaways off the line. So now Morris has found himself in a really tricky situation in 4th place. And that will frustrate him because he'll know he had the pace to be a race winner from qualifying. He was so close to Rudy Van Buren's pole time. But now he's stuck in 4th position. He'll be in the dirty air. He'll be frustrated because he's a little way back from the back of Baldi's car and quite a long way ahead of Lopez's, considering this is only lap 3. So he will be frustrated here. This is going to be a race of patience for Lee Morris. He's got to wait really until the first round of pit stops. But judging from what we saw last time out, even in the wet last time at Shanghai, Josh, well, we could see the first pit stop in as soon as maybe 4 or 5 laps from now, maybe even sooner.
Perhaps so. We've got position changes on down the order. I think Bart DeVos has had a little bit of a disconnect there. He's plummeting down the order at the moment.
No.
So disaster for him already, but we got a juicy battle starting to shape up between, Tobias Olsen and Florian Gaia, and even Dennis Jordan in P6, 7 and 8. Bart DeVos, I think, was part of that, but obviously no longer part of that because of his little problem there. But Jordan, Gaia, Olsen, all juicy battles at the moment. DeVos does disconnect, should be able to get back in it, but look how close Gaia is to Olsen. Could be a Nolshin in the top 6.
Looks like Varley's out of the race as well. Didn't quite see what happened to him, but Matt Varley is showing as a DNF as well. So both Varley and DeVos already in trouble on this first start. So, wow, there's an incredible list of drivers who have already hit the problem button, haven't they? DeVos, who we thought could be strong. Cooper, who some people were tipping for the win, is now down in dead last, trying to chase down the Hungarian Daniel Sharanku. We've got Lewis Redshaw recovering. He's made it up to 16th, so fair play to him, as Ben Horrell behind him makes the move on Ben Willis, and Willis is not prepared to give him much room. That was a feisty little bit of defence from Willis, and that puts him into the clutches of Menno Klont and Thomas Hinz. So those two still scrapping away. But David Fek is the man on the move as well. Started P22, now in P13, Josh. So firmly in the points, but he could definitely do with a little bit more of a pick-me-up.
He could, and he's going to not pit before everyone else as well. Remember, he's on the harder compound of the very, very softest tyres. He is on the super softs rather than the ultra softs, so he'll be able to stay out longer, perhaps even rocking himself a little bit. He must have been anticipating this with the strategy, and he's just absolutely barreling down on Jeffrey Fortier, who's got stuck behind Ryan Walker at the moment.
This is a great little tussle for 11th position, and I have to say, in the early stages of this one, Ryan Walker and his return to Super League has been absolutely phenomenal. I was watching some old VTs of him when he was racing in Super League, and when he had a great car underneath him, he was almost unstoppable at times, and he's jumped straight into this car as a 4th round replacement, basically, and it looks as if he's never been away, Josh.
It does. He seems right at home in that P11. Great to have him back, of course. It is a pleasure to have all drivers back. Morris and Walker, shades of Drake, 2011. Obviously, the Mad Cake pound, not quite as good as the Drake was back then. But still, they're making a very good job of it with Morris 4th, Walker 11th. You know, this pairing just seems to work up nicely. And, Morris showing it because he's catching up to Baldi.
I've just been watching a replay on the feed of Ben Willis having a very tasty little battle with Thomas Hinz and Menno Klont. Willis actually got tipped into a spin in the final turn. He's managed to get it back together again, but now he's having a little bit of a scrap with Menno Klont, another man who's had some big shoes to fill, and he's working very hard. Alex Cooper, by the way, for fans of him, has now made it past Daniel Sharanku, the Hungarian, and is closing in, or at least trying to close in, on the Willis and Klont battle. Just having a look at lap times at the moment. Oh, absolutely unbelievable for David Fek. Just when we thought he had an opportunity to go for the victory, the car crabbing like crazy. He can't keep it in a straight line. Oh, David Fek, you have to say, That was a chance to get on the podium. Completely gone. He spins again now, trying to get the car back to the pits. This is an absolute disaster for the reigning champion.
And he's out. He's decided that's enough. He can't.
Too much damage. Too much damage.
Too much damage to that Norwegian car. Yeah, he just decided really that's not really trying.
Oh, Sharanku's got damage as well. I wonder, did he actually end up tagging Fidek in the incident as well? But it looks to me as though Sharanku had damage before he even made his pit stop. So I think Sharanku's got difficulties there as well. We did say that this race was going to take its toll, and we've had 4 retirements already. Well, unless Sharanku, of course, manages to get the car repaired. But one of them is the reigning champion, David Fek.
Yeah, and that is a massive shame for him. That's going to absolutely kill his chances in the championship. And, well, I do believe that's a little statistic. Brogan, actually, David Fek, I don't believe has ever had a DNF in his Super League career, and this is the first. I
think it might be, you know. Oh, we've had a change for 3rd position. I didn't see where that happened, but Morris has got past Baldi. So now Morris is looking at a podium, having been quite a long way back from Baldi. I've got to ask, did Baldi make a mistake? Did he go over the circuit? Did he push too hard there and have an issue? I'm just looking back on the feed to see if anything's happened, because there was a yellow flag in Sector 2. Now, Lopez and Baldi are both in the pits. So that's lap 6, Josh, for the first pit stop.
Yep, but Lopez going on to these super softs as well. Baldi's staying on the ultras. That is interesting to say the least. If they don't last long, Lopez wants more tyre life. He's going on to the supers. Dennis Jordan as well onto the super softs. Florian Guy, it seems pit stop time is now for the super soft runners, or in a couple of laps. Guy and now the only remaining Norwegian on the field has stayed on the ultras as well. So differing strategies going on here.
Right, I've just watched the replay back of Morris's move on Baldi. It was just a pure DRS overtake, and he made light work of it in the end. So he's been systematically closing down Baldi over the last couple of laps. So great work from him as Jordan and Redshaw the circuit. Bit ahead of Fran Lopez, but not by much, I've noticed, as Baldi makes the move on Fournier to get him on the DRS down into the chicane. Now, that promotes Ryan Walker up to 7th position, and that is about where GPVWC rejoins. So this is now on Risto Capit to get the best out of this situation he possibly can. He's actually pulled out to over 3 seconds clear of Lee Morris. Now that's important as well. Is Rudy Van Buren pitting? Yes, he is. The race leader is in, so Van Buren can only last 7 laps on these tyres.
And that might be crucial, that, because now we know he can only last 7. We might see a sort of let's try and double bluff you situation from Shanghai, but Van Buren in before Capit.
Morris in as well. That's important too.
And it looks like Olsen's trying to... He's wide. Yep, Olsen and Frančić and Zapanic. Walker stays out. Baldi stays out. And looking further down the field, we'll have to see what the likes of McNaughton do with several cars in. Olsen missed his pit box. He's had to go backwards. Onto the super softs he goes, though, as is Frančić. Zapanic goes onto the regular softs. Rudy Van Buren and Alexa Supers, though. Interesting to see Ben Zapanic go for a slightly different strategy again.
Now, Risto Capit has been asked basically by the Vodball team to keep these tyres working a lap longer so that the team leader, Rudy Van Buren, can get the optimised strategy. Now, this is difficult because Risto Capit, as we know from the last 3 races, has a habit of not being able to keep the tyres lasting as long as his teammate. So Capit has been asked to go a lap longer than Rudy Van Buren, 2 laps longer than the likes of Baldi, and a lap longer than Morris. So this could absolutely destroy Capit's race unless they've been working over the last 2 weeks to get him a little bit used to the tyres. If he's able to make these tyres last at a decent pace, he could still give himself a chance of 2nd position. But this is a big ask for Capit, who does not have a great reputation yet for preserving tyres.
Yeah, but that's ultimately what he's going to do. He's just got to keep the tyres going ultimately, and well, as long as he can, or at least until he possibly can come in. But yeah, interesting to see that in this instance he's being asked to outlast Rudy Van Buren's tyres, because Rudy's been the chief tyre saver historically in Super League this season. I'll be interested to see if Risto doesn't actually come in this lap to see the Vodballs on a similar sort of strategy. I would be intrigued if he doesn't come in, if he's actually trying to save, it looks like from the line he's taking that, he is coming in now.
Yep. Oh, he nearly loses it on the way into the pits. That's how difficult it is to look after the tyres. Even our cameraman, Argo Teder, has written on YouTube, how is Capit outlasting Rudy? Well, that's a first, and we just saw there how difficult it was to keep the tyre alive, because we then managed to see, didn't we, just how tricky it was for Capit. And look, Baldi's gone through. Baldi's gone through. He's passed Risto Capit. Going that extra lap on the tyres has cost him the position.
Yeah, he's really got himself. Yeah, that is Cabot on the extra tyres. He's gone for the ultras again to try and make it up, but Baldi is very much ahead here, and well, that is cost Bristol Cabot.
Well, what's happened to Lee Morris? Because he's about 14 seconds behind this lot. I'm not entirely sure why Morris is all of a sudden 11 seconds behind Ghegobaldi. Did he have a slow pit stop or did he have a poor outlap? I'm not sure, but Lee Morris, for some reason, now finds himself a long way down. So that is a difficult position for him to be in. But Rudy Van Buren leads the way here. Ghegobaldi is second from Capit, Fournier, Morris, Lopez, Francic, Olsen, Jupinek, and Adrian McNaughton is now 10th.
McNaughton 10th, good start from him. He's managed to get himself up the order again, and well, good charge from Adrian to see that storm up the order. And well, they've gone from the most developed car to the 10th most developed, so good to see them still competitive.
Well, apparently, according to Drake Racing, Drake Racing has mentioned somebody has missed his pit box. I'm not sure who has done that. They might need to give us some clarification. Maybe they were watching something closer than we could see. But Lee Morris now finds himself, how about this, stuck behind Jeffrey Fournier. Now, Fournier has not pitted. He's there in 4th position. He seems to have a good rhythm around this place. He seems to like the Valencia circuit as Morris actually overshoots, trying to stay with him. And that's the difficulty. When you're in the dirty air in these cars, it's very difficult to lose the traction in these cars. Now Fournier pits and actually overshoots as he comes into the pit lane. So that's a difficulty there for Fournier. Morris is now going to be released. But this is amazing. He's a full 11 seconds behind Ghegobaldi and 9 seconds behind Risto Capit. This is a nightmare for Lee Morris.
Yeah, Morris not having a good time of it all of a sudden, and well, from that fantastic second place, he just doesn't seem to have made the full advantage of it. Hopefully he can by the end of this race, because, well, it's a shame to see him dropping down the order.
So we've got 21 drivers still running the race. We have had retirements, I'm afraid, from Matt Varley, from Bart de Vos, and from David Fek. That's something we never say in GPVWC Super League. We never say the words David Fek is out of the race. So remember where you were and tell your grandchildren about it, because it's never happening again. Rudy Van Buren now 10 seconds clear of Ghegobaldi, and that is interesting because now we have Baldi in a very strong position compared to Risto Capit, because again, Wouters Automotive have managed to pull a fast one on their number 2 driver. Now Capit on fresh rubber and a very fast car is able to close up on Ghegobaldi, but Baldi has definitely made up a place on Capit on strategy. So again, Wouters Automotive can make up in tactics where they perhaps are deficient in terms of pure pace. So Ghegobaldi very much still in contention here.
Yeah, Baldi still very much in contention for the race win here, definitely, and chasing down Rudy Van Buren. And well, speaking of David Fek, I think he's actually wanting to join with for a quick chat here after his retirement from the race, Jake, if you'd like to handle that.
Absolutely, David. This is a terribly early time in the race to be talking to you. I think history has been made, but it's not a history you wanted.
No. First DNF in, well, since I joined the league 4 years ago. So, yeah, not one I wanted. If you have to cut me off at any point, just do so. I know they're racing still.
Okay, well, tell us exactly what happened out there, because it looked to our untrained eyes as if you kind of lost it on your own. What happened out there?
Yeah, the second DRS zone, pulled out the corner, put the DRS on, and then I was adjusting the car for the first pit stop, changing onto ultra softs, and then looked up and I had to start turning sharply with DRS, and I lost it. So I just wanted to come on to publicly apologise to Tom Jacobs as I collected him in the spin. And yeah, I tried calling back to the pits, but the car just understeered into the wall and killed the engine. So yeah, that was it.
What a disaster, David. Hopefully everything will be back again in time for the next one.
Let's hope so, yeah. No luck so far this year, so something's got to change.
Hard luck, David. Sorry to hear. Well, it's Risto Capit versus Ghegobaldi that we're now focusing on there in the battle for second position. But yes, the reigning champion, David Fek, out of the race. That is a real disaster. His first retirement in GPVWC Super League since joining the league. Now, Risto Capit has caught Baldi. This is the thing we're going to see over the course of this race. The Vodbull has the 1 lap pace, which means that Risto is able to get onto the back of Ghegobaldi. But Valtus Automotive are incredibly shrewd operators. Andreas Valtus, very talented man in terms of his strategy. He is the master tactician here, and he has thought about this. He knows that Vodbull over one lap are quicker, but where Gergo Baldi is really strong is he's a calculated driver. He is a patient man. He plays the long game here. So even though Capit is able to get onto the back of Baldi, if he can make that car wide enough, if he can hold Capit up, then they still hold the ace here. This is going to at least secure them second position if they can keep Capit at bay.
Yep, if they can just hold Resto Capit at bay, then they might just be able to gain some time. I mean, Van Buren is doing a Van Buren where a fifth away through the race, he's got a 12-second gap. As near as makes no difference to Baldi. But Baldi and Capit going at it at the moment. Remember, Resto on the quick, was on the quick tyre. Baldi's now on the ultra softs as well. So obviously, Resto now, both on the same tyre. He's trying to line something up here. You can just tell, can't you, with the way he's looking at it. But it just doesn't seem to be going for the Estonian at the moment. Baldi has done a good enough job of defending, although the speed he's carrying now is allowed him to pull to the outside.
Oh, this is going to be tight!
And under brake, and he gets it. I think he has pulled that one out of the bag, but then Baldi's trying to get the car back. But the line of the circuit, the way it flows, has not allowed it, and Capit has gotten through.
Risto Capit, that is an absolute flyer of a move. That's the overtaking move that Pastor Maldonado was trying to do on Lewis Hamilton in 2011 and failed to do. Risto, he's just taught the Venezuelan how it should be done there. Brilliant overtake from Risto. Was not going to be phased. Gergo did what he should do. He made him go the long way round, and Risto said, fine. Hashtag challenge accepted. I'm going for it. And he made it work. Absolutely brilliant from the Estonian. But watch him disappear now, because this is what we're going to see from the Vodbull. He is quicker over one lap, so he will drop Baldi. But if it's anywhere between 4 or 5 seconds when he comes in next, and that next pit stop should be any time now if they're on the same tyre compound as before, then it's really going to be game on, because I'm not sure how long they can make these tyres last.
Yeah, the ultra soft's not lasting very much, and Capit being in P2 now is going to be crucial for him. I mean, this right here, this is the Risto Capit of all. This is the Risto Capit that, you know, dominated the World GT Championship in 2016. This is the champion that we know, the Masters champion that we know.
So let's see how this works out, because I have a feeling we're going to see, well, certainly from anybody who's still on the ultra softs, the second round of pit stops is going to come from this next rotation. Now, Rudy Van Buren went to the super softs, I think, on that last. So he's actually out there setting 1 minute 40s, fairly, well, 142 ones fairly consistently on a different tyre compound to Capit and Baldi. That's significant because Morris, Lopez, Olsen, Francic, they went the same way on tyre compound as Van Buren. So don't expect them in this time. What we will see, though, is Capit and Baldi, quite possibly even a race in the pits, because Baldi is going to have a shorter time life on his tyres, but Risto needs to counteract this because he cannot really afford to have Gergo Baldi in front of him again. He doesn't want to waste too much time here. So he's got to think about this. When Baldi is likely to pit is kind of nowish, so perhaps Risto Capit might want to beat him to it by pitting in when he thinks Baldi would pit, which is probably going to be about nowish. So we're going to have to see if either of them dives for the pit. Capit doesn't. Baldi makes it very late decision and does pit.
Yeah, he almost crossed over the area that you're not supposed to cross over there. That was a bit weird, but Gergo, I think, just managed it ultimately. Stays on the ultra softs, so going for a more I'm going to stop more strategy, or he's just trying to put off use of the ultras until the absolutely latest. But Van Buren on the supers is just out in front, obviously, at the moment, has nothing to worry about, can try and extend that tyre life, as we know he can better than Capit. And Risto now on the ultra softs is going to try and make those tyres last, which he's battled with.
Sorry, Josh. Lopez is trying to overtake Baldi as he comes out of the pits. That was a very scary moment for Fran Lopez. He almost ended up in the wall on the left-hand side there as Baldi said, no, there's no way I'm letting you pass me. If you get past me at this point, Fran, my race is practically over. So no, you stay where you are. If you go into the wall, not my problem.
Yeah, Fran Lopez outright denied by Baldi there. He will not be given that place, and Franz is going to have to wear his little Spanish magic to get through. Well, that is what is his home Grand Prix, remember, Fran Lopez. So a bit of added, I'm going to win this sort of mindset going into it. Yeah, he's in P5 at the moment, but if he makes the charge, he can still get a good podium position. And knowing Fran Lopez, that will not have escaped his mind.
Now, interestingly, the only other drivers really on this pit stop rotation that are likely to make a pit stop is going to be Florian Gaia, I think. So expect Florian Gaia into the pits. other than that, I think really we're only going to see pit stops from Capit this time around. Surely it's got to be this time around. He doesn't want to make the same mistake again and stay out there for too long. So I can see him pitting this time to counteract Baldi's pit stop. Baldi, meanwhile, has just set a personal best second sector of the race. He's actually gone purple in the second sector, a 45.7, which, to give you an idea, is a full second quicker than Rudy Van Buren managed on the same lap. So clearly, going on the Ultra Softs is still the right way to go for Gergo Baldi. Rudy Van Buren is actually in a very comfortable position here, leading the way on the Super Softs. He's not having to push too hard here. He's just keeping the pace solid and consistent. He's a perfect little GT driver, isn't he, Rudy? He just keeps on banging in those laps, lap after lap. Lopez is in, though.
Yep, Lopez decides that's enough. He's going under a set of super softs there, so more tyre life we're going to see from him. Fournier's just jumped him in the pits there. Guy is not going to. Lopez comes out 10th then. Must be said, Walker and Fournier as the new drivers in this race, doing a great job in 8 and 9.
I am absolutely astonished by Ryan Walker in this one. He's done an absolutely cracking job so far. He's there in 8th position. He's right on the back of Ben Zubanek, looking for a solid top 10 finish here, Ryan Walker. Let's not forget the fact, of course, that Lopez has pitted. But this is a brilliant standout performance from Ryan Walker. He's got a genuine shout here of getting past Zubanek as well. He's in the DRS zone. I want to stay with this because Walker's got a great opportunity here to go for Zubanek. He gets a good exit. Zubanek's got a better exit, but Walker should be able to use the slipstream to his advantage. He'll get DRS. He goes to the right. Look, he goes very early to the right. He is not going to give Zubanek the satisfaction of making him go the long way. Oh, but he's overshot. Catch it back, Ryan. Catch it back. That was a good save. He loses the place, but he might not be vulnerable to Fournier. A little bit of inexperience there from Walker, but he did exactly what he needed to do to get himself back in a position.
I thought by how quickly he was going past Benz, he might have overshot the braking slightly, and he did. He just lost valuable time there, but he's going to try and catch it on the Benz, but it's allowed Fournier to close in. Ryan Walker on the harder compounded tyre out of these two. Jeffrey on the Ultra Softs, Ryan on the... and Benz ahead is on the regular softs. We've got 3 compounds out of 3 cars, so Ryan will be catching Benz, but Jeffrey will be catching Ryan. So we'll have a bit of a sort of I'm the leader, and then I'm getting caught by the other two, but they're battling each other effect going on.
This is turning into a painful motor race for Lee Morris. He's just had to allow Gergo Baldi to get past him, and that must have been really frustrating because they're on different strategies. Baldi on the Ultra Softs. Lee Morris has stayed out there for a longer stint for the second time of asking on the Super Softs. Maybe Morris is saving his Ultra Softs for later. Maybe this is a short-term loss, long-term gain, as Florian Gaia is the next to make his pit stop. As we expected, Risto Capit, for my money, is going to be the next, as Dennis Jordan also pits in on this lap. But this is lap 16 for Risto Capit. I can see him making the pit stop here. He's trying to make these tyres last 2 laps longer than Gergo Baldi. So Baldi made it last for 6 laps on both occasions. Risto Capit is trying to make the tyres last 8 laps on both occasions. The first time round, it didn't work because he lost too much time to Gergo Baldi. He was able to make it up again because he had newer tyres to the tune of 2 laps. This time, he's going to have newer tyres to the tune of 4 laps. So Capit is trying a very risky strategy here. Baldi is absolutely decimating the gap. But if he does it by enough over the course of the race, I can see that basically Risto Capit is trying to do what Baldi did to Van Buren in Shanghai and try to outfox him. But Baldi's just set a new fastest lap, a 1:40.880. Baldi's still in contention for the win here as Capit boxes.
Yeah, Baldi very much still in contention for the win here as he's not going to pit, obviously, because he's just obviously not done so long ago. Should jump Capit and he's going to go through here, but Risto goes on to the Super Softs. So maybe he's trying to throw Gergo off here.
Yeah, I think he's trying to outfox it. Morris is in. Morris is in. Now, this is important. What's he going to do? Because he was out a little bit longer on the Super Softs. Surely he's going to change compound, is he? No, he's staying out on Super Softs again for another set. That's interesting.
Yeah, maybe trying to get more use out of these Super Softs. I mean, David Franchich is coming out now. He stayed on the Supers as well. So Morris and Franchich stay on the...
Oh, this is going to be messy. This is going to be messy. Morris just about splits himself between Lopez and Zubanek. That's an important moment in this race for Lee Morris. He gets himself in front of Zubanek and his teammate Ryan Walker. That was critical for Morris. He had to slot himself into as good a position as possible. If Zubanek had got through, that would have been game over in terms of strategy. It's going to be a headache enough as it is, stuck behind Lopez, but I don't see Morris being stuck behind him for long. I think on this next DRS zone, he should get Lopez no problem.
I mean, look at the gap between them. It seems inevitable, really, that Morris is going to get some sort of major advantage. He's going to have the engine power. He's going to have the DRS. He's not going to have as much drag as Lopez is. But Lopez is holding the inside. He's going to be forced to do this the long way around. But Morris gets the braking. Is he going to do the move here? Oh, he has done.
Absolutely brilliant move from Lee Morris. Fran Lopez is trying his best in front of his home fans to show that he's got what it takes as Rudy Van Buren pits in. So that's important. Van Buren pits in. Now, as the result of those pit stops from Baldi and Capit, Baldi is actually 6 seconds up the road from Capit. But as we've already mentioned, they are now on different tyre compounds. So this is not going to be the same race for Risto Capit any longer for Gergo Baldi. And I think that's going to outfox them to a certain degree. Valters are probably thinking, that's a bit of a left field decision. Why has Risto chosen to go for the Super Softs and join his teammate on that strategy? We're going to see a very different kind of race now because Gergo Baldi is actually able to go considerably quicker than Risto Capit on those tyres. He'll build a bit of a gap, but that could put them into a bit of a complacent position. They won't necessarily know what the Vodbull team have up against their sleeve, and they know that they're faster over one lap as Olsen and Fournier make their pit stops. So Olsen rejoins in 8th in front of David Francic. Jeffrey Fournier should get out in front of Alex Cooper, but Cooper pits as well. I have to say, fair recovery from Cooper. He's now in 11th position, but then again, he is out of sync with everybody in terms of their tyre strategies. Hens pits as well. Jordan and Clont continue, as does McNaughton. Now, what's happened to Redshaw? He's there in 17th position. Oh, Ben Willis is out of the race. I didn't see what happened to Ben, but Ben Willis has retired. So we now have 20 of the drivers still left running. Again, another race of attrition here, Josh.
Yep, another attrition high race at the moment. Hintz has come out with a tyre change as well. He's gone onto the Supers from the Ultra. So I think a lot of drivers now trying to hedge the bets on the Super Softs, maybe thinking that longevity is better than outright pace here at Valencia. And whether that will prove to be the mantra of the race, time will tell, I'm sure. Because, well, quite a few drivers have jumped now. And, of course, Ben Sapanic, the kind of lone sheep in the sort of field with the soft tyres at the moment. Everyone else is on softer rubber rather than Ben's. But he's made those tyres last, let's be honest. He has made them last quite a while.
He certainly has. The man I'm impressed with now at this point is Lee Morris. He's just done a purple Sector 1 on Super Softs. He's just done a 25.9 compared to Gergo Baldi, who's going about half a second quicker than Rudy Van Buren. Lee Morris is absolutely on it. Where is he getting this pace from?
I have no idea where he's getting it from at all. He's just crossed the line there, and we'll see if he does actually improve to a personal best lap. It's not a purple because that has now gone to the first sector for Rudy Van Buren, who goes purple there. So the driver's really starting to get the full range of armory out, as he would put it. But yeah, Morris is on an absolute flyer at the moment.
Right, Jupanek and Walker have just made their pit stops. I can still... Oh, no, sorry, that was Florian Gaia who'd done a 142.1. My apologies. Actually, that's a point. Florian Gaia having done a 142.1 on the last lap. Don't count him out yet.
Yeah, there's a lot of drivers who can't be counted out. This race is only a third done. We are only on lap 19 at 57. This is far from done.
Right, Gergo Baldi is currently at about half a second a lap pace advantage to Van Buren, so he's making those Super Softs work for him. But by my math, Gergo Baldi will be pitting now, and he does. There you go, the end of lap 19. Gergo Baldi is into the pits. I did think it would be now or never, so into the pits he comes. Ironically, he's there with his Hungarian teammate, Daniel Sharanko. He's queuing up behind his teammate in the pits. That is a disaster for Gergo Baldi.
Pushing him out the way. He's not desperate to pay.
Oh, no.
Now, I'm not sure about the legality of that, Gergo, but he shoved Sharanko out of his box. He's that desperate to go through. Daniel must have hit it with damage or something, and Gergo's been held a big time. Lopez has gone through, and Olsen's threatening to get Sharanko out. But yeah, Olsen's through now as well, and Francic threatening Baldi. This has been disastrous for the Hungarian, and he had to shove his teammate out of the way.
I don't believe it. That is a race changer for Gergo Baldi. Unfortunately for him, his teammate Daniel Sharanko was already in pit lane, and that means that Baldi has been really severely hampered now. He drops the 6th position. Surely now, this is an open casket for Valtters Automotive to climb into, because we've got Vodbull Racing now 1 and 2. Capit has outfoxed them on the strategy. Baldi has changed to Ultra Softs again, but he's already had an absolute nightmare of a pit stop. You couldn't get it any worse than that.
I'm more intrigued as to the legality of that little nudge there to Daniel Sharanko, because obviously each team has pit boxes and you've got to queue up behind your teammate. I'm not sure whether you're allowed to actually shove them out of the way or not. That's going to be interesting to see after the race.
Well, it's interesting because we've got... it's a difficult one because we've had Argo Teder right on the YouTube stream. Where's the team management? Wapos on YouTube says that's not legal. Rules say it's illegal to make parallel pit stops. So that is an interesting decision. If they feel, the officials, that they have contravened the regulations, then Baldi is going to get surely a penalty for that.
Yeah, it could full well be. Yeah, it is Rule 23.13 of the rulebook that says you're not allowed to take parallel pit stops with two cars in service at the same time. And apparently both drivers will be punished with a 10-second stop and go or 30-second time penalty after the race. So Baldi could have gone from bad to worse to even worse. He might just have performed an illegal maneuver.
Well, he's now going to make an attack on Tobias Olsen regardless. Watch where he goes. He's going to go the long way round. That's not the best move. But watch, he's going to dive to the inside. He psychs out the Swede. He makes Olsen make the mistake there. Baldi goes the long way round. Tobias was completely psyched out by that. He overshot, and that was enough to get Gergo to switch back to the inside line. That was a pure intimidation move, pure Earnhardt from Gergo Baldi, and that puts him into P5. Now he's got about 5 seconds to gain on Fran Lopez, but at the moment, it's self-destruct mode at Valters.
Yeah, but it's all going a bit wrong with Shiranku out and Baldi in fifth and potential penalties on the way. Morris has moved into the podium in all that. I mean, and Lopez fourth. Now the Spaniard is only one place away from that elusive home race podium. Right,
one stop that we need to focus on is the one for Daniel Shiranku because he's now actually out of the race. So Shiranku was in the pits retiring. Now, interesting, Satellite Racing on YouTube says they were only doing one stop at a time. He pushed the other out of the way to work on Baldi, so that is legal. Wapos says if they weren't working on Shiranku, it's legal, but if they were still working on him, it's not legal. So that's going to be an interesting one to figure out whether they've actually contravened the regulations or not. I'm not sure. It's going to be a difficult one to call.
But why have Shiranku pushed out of the way if he wasn't still being worked on? That's the question. It would have been much easier, surely, for Daniel just to drive off a bit, then retire.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I'm not entirely sure, and I'm very glad I'm not race control, because I wouldn't want to make that call, because that would be, well, Baldi has already taken a real hammer blow in terms of his race. He's lost, what, a good 15, 16 seconds stuck there. That would be, for me, I know that penalties are obviously there to hand out to people when they've broken a rule or contravened the regulations or whatever. But in this particular circumstance, I personally feel, and you can argue with me if you want, but that's a little bit like smashing somebody in the ribs when they're already down on the floor with a broken back, if you ask me. I think that's just a little bit too harsh. But that's not my call. I'm not the one who's going to get that one, so it's going to be a difficult one to judge. Meanwhile, we go back to the front, and it's Vodbull 1-2. Rudy Van Buren in front of Risto Capit. Now they're both on the same tyre compound, and we're seeing what we expected to see ultimately in terms of pure pace, because Van Buren is about 9/10 of a second quicker per lap than his teammate Risto Capit. So this is just about controlling and managing the gap at the moment now for Vodbull. They've pretty much got this race in their pocket. What they can't afford to do is allow complacency to sneak in, because if they do, the man who's going to capitalise is the man who's currently a little bit quicker than Risto Capit in terms of one lap pace, and that is Lee Morris. He has not given up on this yet, and don't forget, he actually spent a little bit longer on the super softs. So if he goes to the ultra softs at the end of this race, it's game on for Morris.
Yep, game on for Morris. If he can just get an advantage or Capit loses out, one of the two might happen. And, well, we'll see how it pans out ultimately going forward in the race. Looking further down the field, a couple of interesting notes. Menno Klontz in the points in P15 in that Storm car. Good to see Menno in the points. Of course, Thomas Hiddens 14th, Cooper on a resurgence in 13th, Dennis Jordan all the way down in 12th, as we said. Slightly disappointing to see him so far down. Walker 11th, Gaia, and then Fournier still up in 8th. Jeffrey Fournier is having an amazing race.
Yeah, this is a really good run from Jeffrey Fournier. Very deserving of this position. David Francic, this is kind of what we expected to see from him at the start of the season. Of course, he wasn't there. Had to be super subbed by Maciej Mlinek. But Francic, it's good to see the Croatian back on form. He's there in 7th position. His lap times are good and consistent as well for being on the super softs. He's firmly in the 143s, doing a solid effort. He's particularly strong in the middle sector as well is David Francic. His times are really good. So I have a feeling he could well be possibly in contention for a top 5 here. We still don't really know what's going to happen when Fran Lopez has a sniff of that podium. But what's really going to be a problem for him at the moment is the man who's about to sail past him. Baldi has caught him up. So now this is an opportunity for Baldi to get him. Now what Fran Lopez needs to do here is he needs to hold it to the inside line. He needs to force Baldi to run out of road on the far side. Great defensive work here from Lopez. That keeps Baldi at bay. Now you've got to do that again, Fran, because this is going to be a much stronger overtaking opportunity for Baldi because it's a much tighter apex and it's going to be quicker for him to get to the right. You've got to stop him getting to that inside line. Park yourself firmly on the right. Good boy. Now, this is all down to the braking zone. Baldi's going to try and edge him out. And Lopez is overshot. Good move there from Baldi. He psyched out Lopez. Lopez missed his braking point. Baldi said, thank you very much, mate. I'm off.
Yeah, great opportunism from Baldi to get through there, and Lopez just ultimately, I mean, he defended so well, he caused Baldi to have a massive flat spot lock up there, but then it's all gone wrong for Lopez, and he's decided he's going to come in. I think those super softs might be 2-1 now. He comes in, Baldi stays out, and Lopez now is going to get some fresh rubber to try and mount the charge when Baldi next pits. I'm interested to see whether he stays on the super softs. Yeah, he is going to.
Well, interestingly, there's quite a lot of interesting decision-making, or certainly a lot of debate going on about double stacking pit stop on the YouTube feed. A lot of people basically saying, Daniele Brambrilla, he says he didn't damage anyone with his move, nor gained any advantage. He just lost time. So I suppose, yeah, you could say that he doesn't need a penalty as a result of that. But again, it's not up to us. Wapos says, to be fair, it's the same as saying you shouldn't penalise someone who spun while taking someone else out. So again, that's an interesting move. I don't exactly know how it's going to work out. But so far, we've heard nothing. So I assume that Race Control's attitude at this point has got to be, well, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to be done. So it is an interesting one.
Might be that they're going to investigate it after the race because there is potential post-race penalties for such an infraction as well. There's not necessarily a stop-go has to be applied in the race. There is potential for a 30-second after the race as well. Maybe it just might be that it'll be reviewed after the race indeed. But bit of a funny race for Rudy Van Buren in that he's got absolutely nothing to do. Nicholas Hillebrand saying he seems to be very bored at the front, but he just pretty much got to unsnooze more at the moment and just cruise away to victory.
Well, this is what we said at Sochi, isn't it? But the difference is you've got to take this into context. Because, yes, Rudy Van Buren is on his own out front, but he's 16 seconds clear. Now, in Melbourne, he was able to get the victory by a minute. By the next time out at Sochi, his lead was slashed in half, down to 30 seconds by what would have been the race finish had he not disconnected. As Baldi pits. So Baldi pits on the 24th lap. So it looks like, again, Baldi is trying to second-guess the opposition here. He's been caught between a rock and a hard place. Right, for the first time, Baldi goes on to the super soft, so we need to watch his lap times. Okay, so that's put Baldi out of sequence again, but he's now gone to the super soft, so we're going to see what he'll do. Coming back to Rudy Van Buren, his winning gap was about 60 seconds in Melbourne. It would have been 30 seconds at Sochi. At the moment, it's about 15, 16 seconds, but it's a difficult skew to put a view of that because it's, again, over his teammate. Now, Liam Morris, he's 30 seconds back from Van Buren, but don't forget that Morris actually went to the super softs before Van Buren did. So that gap might actually overall be a little bit smaller come to finish. So even though, yes, we're saying on paper here, Van Buren is out in front dominating, but this, if he manages to get the job done, will only be his second win of the season, don't forget, in four races. It should ultimately be a third if he gets the job done because of what happened at Sochi. But the guys are actually closing them down little by little. In the words of Oasis, they are taking ground. So you've got the opportunity here to see how this is working out. Rudy Van Buren has got things his own way as Lopez and Francic go to war side by side. Lopez is up the inside, gets the place. Good move from Fran Lopez. This is probably the best we've seen Fran. Good to see him doing so well on home soil. But yeah, Josh, the thing with Rudy Van Buren is, yes, he's leading. Yes, he's comfortable. But every time we see this situation, the gap is always getting smaller.
Yeah, so in the long game, we might see a battle near the end of the race, but for the start of it, at least, you know, he's all right. At the start of the race, he's got a gap which he can use to take it easy, but maybe start to pile the pressure on come the end of the race. So, going to be interesting to see how Van Buren stacks up. And here's Baldi! Baldi just pulled one off on David Francic there. And he went down the inside of his head. I wasn't expecting him to go for. So, obviously, Baldi trying to go for the opportunist moves here. Now, he's had a bit of frustration in the pits, trying to gain every single second he can. But I'm going to go back and look at that again, because that looks sensational.
So am I. So am I. That was definitely worth another look. He caught him completely unawares there. That is not a corner you overtake on. That's a corner you size yourself up for a move in the final turn. But Baldi saw a gap and went, David, what are you doing? Are you half asleep? I'm just going to lap this up. And it's a brilliant overtaking move. It's opportunistic as you like. And that could actually save him a good 3-4 seconds later on in the race by having done that at that point. So, again, Gergo Baldi, clearly his back is against the wall here. They've messed up the strategy a little bit, but he is fighting his way to get himself back in contention. That's a great move from Gergo, and a man who has not given up.
Has not given up in the slightest whatsoever. I mean, he knows he's had problems in the pits. He's got to gain as much time as he can now. This is opportunism at its finest from Baldi now. Just got to try and catch up to Lopez as much as he can and maybe make an overtake there. Of course, the post-race scenario we don't know about, but at the moment at least, he's certainly doing a good job of recovering.
Daniele Brambilla asks on YouTube, what lap is Van Buren disconnecting this time? Don't wish for that kind of thing. It's painful. And to be honest, well, I suppose to be honest, if you talk about it, that means it won't happen. What's it? The old commentators curse. You say they're going to win, and then they don't, which is what happened at Sochi, of course. Now, Risto Capit is in the pits, so that's what? That's lap 26. So we're about half distance. I'm just trying to see what he'll go on to now. He goes on to Super Softs, as does Lee Morris. Well, Lee Morris is in the pit, I should say. But what is he going to go on to? Is this Ultra Soft? Is he going to try and gain some of the ground on Capit?
He's on the Supers coming out of the
pits. Supers again.
Staying on them. There's Olsen in as well. So I imagine he'll probably either change or stay on the compounds. Obviously, he's going to make one or two choices. Goes on to the Ultras. Interesting from Olsen then to go on to the Ultra Softs. And David Franchich is staying on the Supers behind him.
Okay, so Olsen is going to make a strategical switch. Watch him close up onto the back of Benz Zubanek, who's just swept past. So that's going to be interesting. Another man who's going to get into the battle now, of course, as a result of this, is Ryan Walker. Keep an eye on him. He's now up to P8 after David Franchich's pit stop. Florian Gaia's not doing too badly. He's there in 10th position, so he's not quite where I expected him to be by this point, but there is still a way to go. Alex Cooper is just... Well, it's a bit of a difficulty, isn't it? Because Alex Cooper ultimately is just running around hoping other people fall off the racetrack. That's kind of his race now. It's a similar story for Lewis Redshaw. Now underneath Adrian McNaughton. We've got Clont, Jacobs and Horrell still circulating around. We've got 5 retirements in Daniel Sharanku, Ben Willis, reigning champion, of course, David Fiduk, Bart DeVos and Matt Varley in the early stages. All 3 of those as Rudy Van Buren pits. Now, Super Softs or Ultras? Looks to me like Super Softs.
He's staying on the Supers. He has not decided to change tyre compound. He is still on those Super Softs, and I imagine he will continue on them for a while. They seem to be working wonders for him. He's getting the longevity he needs out of them, and that is what is important for him at the moment.
Yeah, I can't see him going back to the Ultras at the moment. The way Rudy is currently driving, I think he's obviously realised, yes, the Ultras are fast, but they're only fast for 6 laps. So now that he's made use of those, there is no logical reason why Rudy Van Buren should switch on to the Ultra Softs. It actually ends up hurting you more in terms of how long you're having to run to make your pit stops, to make your tyres last. From Rudy's point of view, if I'm Rudy Van Buren, I'm staying on Super Softs to the finish.
Yeah, perhaps so. And, well, maybe if there's enough slaps happening, he might go on the Ultras for one last blast. But, yeah, going to be interesting to see whether he does stay on the strategy. So Panic comes in for Kernauer Sport now. And from P7, he is going to pit, and he's staying on the Super, so maybe the stint on soft tyres didn't work out for him before, but he's staying on the newfound pace that he's got on the Supers. Florian Gaia is going to be super close on the exit. I think Gaia's going to jump him, so over in 90 goals, and Zapanic should be able to chase down now. Forney is going to be reasonably close as well, so Zapanic has a couple of things to worry about now, but still in a very, very good position at the moment. Oh, look at this. Gergo Baldi's starting to size up Lopez.
He is. Here we go again. This is ding ding round 3. Back to your corners, boys, because Lopez is going to get absolutely mullered by Gergo Baldi if he's not careful. He won't do it on this DRS zone, but he certainly has a chance to do it on the second. And this is exactly a repeat of what we saw a couple of laps ago. So Baldi is going to try again on Fran Lopez. I was going to say, the man to watch at the moment is actually the man in 3rd place, Lee Morris. He just went purple in the first sector, did a 25.9. That's really impressive on Super Softs. But here comes Baldi. Well, Lopez, you're going to have to do this again. Do not let Gergo psych you out. Do not let him get to you. Hold that inside line, bucko. Good job. And there is Gergo Baldi having to take a very tight line on the hairpin to try and get one over on Lopez. That's a better move from Lopez. He's being very defensive, very strong and convicted, and it's Baldi who actually runs wide. So Lopez is now trying to second-guess the Hungarian.
Yeah, through the final turn they come now. Baldi has just got the inside here, but again, there's no DRS till halfway through the lap or so he's not going to have a massive chance until then. He's just got to hold station behind the Spaniard for now until he can get himself into a decent position to make an overtake, because at the moment it's not happening for Gergel, and Lopez now is doing the defending well enough to hold Gergel behind when Gergel was doing the attacking enough to get it through the last time. This time the tables have been turned.
Fastest lap of the race, Lee Morris, a 1 minute 40.5, and a big tag slapper from Baldi's. He's getting really frustrated, sat behind Fran Lopez. He'll be screaming at him in his mind, what are you doing? Get out of the way. This is my race to get on the podium, not yours. And he'll be absolutely fuming that he can't get past Fran Lopez at this moment, but he's got the DRS zone opportunity now. Surely this is his chance to take it, but we saw how strong Fran Lopez is in the middle sector. This is where he's able to get, look, he gets a good exit. Baldi's not going to be close enough. The only way he's going to get an overtaking opportunity now is if he banzais up the inside, and desperation is basically the next level he's at to try and get past Lopez, but Lopez again continues to hold station. He's not going to let this happen. Meanwhile, Ben Schupanek is starting to get close to Gaia, with Fournier bearing down on both of them. Ryan Walker's had his pit stop, and he has joined in front of Dennis Jordan. So battles going on all around the circuit. Here's Baldi again.
Not close enough. He can't get through. Ultimately, he's just going to have to stick behind Lopez at this point. I think Lopez must be running less downforce because he's just got the straight line speed advantage. I mean, that Valiant engine is powerful enough as it is because Wout is running the Martex unit, but this is a close battle. It's a battle of styles, really, Lopez versus Baldi at the moment. It's going to be very interesting to see how this continues on, because Gergel Baldi cannot make any inroads on the Spaniard whatsoever. He'll be getting frustrated, but Fran Lopez will be sitting pretty in fourth thinking, nope, you can't get past me.
And Baldi is absolutely hemorrhaging time. He's just on a 1:43.0 compared to the guys up the road who are both on 1:41s, Capit and Morris. So this is a big problem for Baldi. He needs to get past Lopez. He can't afford to sit behind him even for another half lap, or his race really is over for the chance of a podium. Morris is going to be too far ahead for him to overhaul. Even if he switches compounds, it's going to really compromise Baldi's race. So this is going to be an absolute disaster for Baldi unless he can get past Lopez in the next half lap. But Fran Lopez is really good around this part of the lap. Watch him as we go into the right-hander. Gets a good acceleration off, but there was a little twitch. But look, Baldi had to hesitate. Lopez has got him for the moment.
Yeah, and Lopez really just with the advantage there because he's just managing to stay ahead, really. And Baldi, as much as he tries, cannot find a way through. And imagine how frustrated he is because of that.
Well, Lopez has clearly done his quick reading of Max Verstappen tactics to stay ahead during that last pit stop, because he's really making this car work. Lopez, again, allows Baldi to get really close on the apex, but then he actually puts Baldi on the back foot. He has to back out of it. Lopez is able to get a little bit more breathing space, but now Baldi is swarming. He goes one way, goes the other. Fran, stay firm on the inside. Do not give him the satisfaction. Great move from Lopez. Well done. He shut the door beautifully.
That is defending 101 right there. Just don't give the position up no matter how hard it gets. And Lopez, he's doing the perfect job. Baldi must be beside himself as to how he's still there and he's still not getting the time.
Right, Lopez continues out in front of Baldi. Real frustration creeping in here. Further back, of course, we've got a three-way scrap. Schupanek is being caught by Gaia, who is also being reeled in by Jeff Fournier. Jeff Fournier is having a brilliant motor race here. This is one of the best drives I've ever seen from Jeff. He's having a great run in 10th position. Walker is still there in 11th following his pit stop. Cooper is 12th from Jordan, Redshaw, Hinz, Jacobs, Clont, McNaughton and Horrell. I can't take my eyes off this scrap between Lopez and Baldi, though. They're almost nudging each other around this racetrack as again Baldi tries down towards turn 6, and Lopez is just not giving him anything.
He is giving him absolutely no quarter here. He's not allowing him a single inch worth of space here, and he's just trying and trying and trying, but it's not working as Gergel Baldi. It's the unstoppable force meeting the immovable object, and in this case, the object is Lopez.
Here we go. Now Baldi's got up the inside. Fran, you gave him too much room. Baldi's going to get him. Lopez is going to try and break for the outside. It was never going to happen. Baldi gets through. Now Lopez actually cuts the corner in an attempt to get back on terms with Baldi. I was going to say that's the best racing I've ever seen from Fran Lopez, and it's still there or thereabouts, but that's what happens when you work so hard to keep the man behind you. You end up just getting a little bit silly in your attempts to get through, and that was a bit of a rookie error from Lopez. He's going to try and come back to Baldi. Oh, he almost parks on his rear wing.
Well, that shows you how hard he's pushing it now, really. And, well, Lopez just let him through, and now Baldi's trying it through. Now it's his turn to try and attack and defend, and Lopez has got to try and get the move done.
Well, according to Wapos on YouTube, it looks like Baldi was waiting and Jaranku's car was dead. So, in fact, it should be fine. It shouldn't be a penalty for Valters Automotive. I have to say, that's good. I really hope there isn't a penalty in that case. So, it is a difficult one. Valters himself, Andreas, is obviously saying it's a big pity for us. So, big difficulties there. So, obviously, not everybody's had the greatest race of it. And as Tobias Olsen comes in on the Ultrasofts, he hasn't made as much of an impression on those Ultrasofts as I thought he would do, especially with Baldi and Lopez holding each other up. Fournier has actually got past Gaia, who has gone off. Gaia's gone off for the final turn.
Disaster for Florian. He won't have wanted that at all, and Fournier is going to take full advantage and get through and move himself up yet another position and increase his brilliant race position further. Jeffrey Fournier really proving himself in this race.
Sorry, I'm just watching the replay back. That was Gaia trying to come into the pits, and he lost the back end of the car on the way into the pits. So there was no tyre life at all. The car was sliding, and as he turned in the long left-hand hairpin, he just got on the throttle a tiny bit too early, and that put Florian Gaia, well, effectively in the wall. He managed to stop the car before contact, but that's as good as. Now, back with the Baldi-Lopez battle. Lopez is coming back at him.
Yep, take 5, I guess it is for this.
Oh! It bang wheels! This is absolutely incredible! Lopez is not done yet. Gergo, I am coming back to play as they go through the right-hander. Lopez has got Baldi in the DRS zone now. Now, if he can chuck it up the inside, he could get the place.
He could. This is an enthralling battle between these two. This is what Super League's all about.
Oh, look at him. He just parks it on the inside line, basically dancing with the white paint, and almost there's contact between the two of them. This is one of the best battles I have ever seen.
Well, that's saying something. That really is. These two just refusing to yield against each other at the moment. They're absolutely going at it. Well, both of them want the position, and ultimately only one that can have them. And that's ultimately the nature of competition. Who's going to come out on top? I don't know.
Well, I was watching the replay of that while Lopez made his pit stop, so apologies if that sounded like I was watching something 20 seconds late, but I'd only just picked up on that because of the battles. They were changing positions there, so I went back to watch it. I was 20 seconds delayed, sorry. But Lopez is there, having rejoined the circuit after his pit stop in front of Francic. Now, let's have a look in terms of what he's done. Okay, so he's gone on to Supersofts. So everybody in the top 7 is now on Supersofts. Tobias Olsen, he's not on either the Supersofts or the Ultrasofts, Josh. That's interesting.
Yeah, Olsen on the regular softs, as is Jordan, as is McNaughton. So drivers now obviously thinking now is the time to perhaps, go for these alternate strategies. Use these different tyres. Get different tyres used if you want to use them. Or maybe just try something different.
So the order on lap 34. Rudy Van Buren is your race leader. Risto Capet is in second place from Lee Morris, Gergo Baldi and Fran Lopez driving beautifully on home soil, with David Francic, the Croatian, in 6th position. Ben Shibanek, Tobias Olsen, Ryan Walker and Jeff Fournier are in the top 10, with Alex Cooper in 11th place ahead of Dennis Jordan. The final point scorers as it stands at the moment are Tom Hinz, Florian Gaia and Lewis Redshaw. However, there is still a chance for Jacobs, for Clont, for McNaughton and Horrell, who are all still circulating. As into the pits comes Gergo Baldi. Now, where's he going to get out in relation to Fran Lopez? Lopez is a genuine challenger for the top 4 here.
Yeah, it's going to be crucial, really, to see if Lopez gets out ahead of Baldi or behind.
He's going to, and by a long way. Lopez is going to be a few seconds up the road from Baldi. More disaster for Valters.
It just goes from bad to worse, really, at this point. Honestly, for Baldi, he's on the Ultrasofts, trying to make the time back to Lopez. But ultimately, Fran is going to get himself, well, he's ahead now, so the battle's probably going to continue.
Right, Fournier's in the pits. It'll be interesting to see what he does, because he was on Ultrasofts. Is he going to stay on Ultras? Looks like it to me. So Fournier, yes, he's still on Ultras as he gets out of the pits. I think he's the only one on that lap other than Baldi, to make the pit stop. So Van Buren from Capet, Morris, Lopez, Baldi and Francic is your top 6. Jupanek has got a bit of an issue here. The man behind him is the man on softs, Tobias Olsen, who almost loses the car completely as he closes up on Jupanek.
And that's not what you want to be doing, really. Obviously, Tobias on the harder compound compared to Benson's softer compound. But if Olsen's sticking with him on a harder tyre, that's not a good sign. Because, well, he's going faster on a slower tyre, and that means he's going to get more life and more speed, which is basically a double whammy of loss for the likes of Sepanic, who might be on a softer compound and not being able to match him.
Right, we've had an interesting question on the stream from Loitco27, who says, didn't Gergo just pit like 3 laps ago? Well, looking at his stints, he's basically had 6 laps on his first stint and 6 again on the second. He went 7 on the third stint. His fourth stint was only 5 laps, and then the last stint he's done has been 9. So he's only just gone onto his new set of tyres. So that is where the confusion might have set in, because he'd only spent 5 laps on his previous stint, as Olsen makes the move on the inside of Superleague, and there was a little bit of a nudge, but that's okay. Good move from Olsen.
Yep, gets there, and well played indeed to Tobias. Now Ben's on the softer tyres, going to be starting to kick himself for that. He's on the faster tyres. Why am I not going through? He's probably asking. Well, that Hawkeye is a very strong car. Olsen a very strong driver. You can't really blame him. But Benz won't be happy with his current state in that position, and he will not want to keep him there for long. He'll want to try and get back through.
I tell you what, guys, you're going to need to refill your popcorn bucket and get your front row seat again, because Lopez versus Baldi is going for a 6th round. This is absolutely incredible. Baldi is reeling in Lopez. On this time, he's on the ultra softs. Lopez is on the super softs. And this is going to be, well, you would say on paper, this is going to be David versus Goliath. Lopez is not going to have a chance against Baldi, but we saw how well he coped with defending against Baldi. So even on better tyres, Baldi might not be able to get past Lopez for a while. And this is going to be an interesting one, because Lopez is now a genuine contender for 4th position. If anything happens to the guys up front, don't forget, you're looking at a podium position. So Lopez is desperately hanging on to this in front of Gergo Baldi. But Baldi has only just gone on to ultra soft tyres. Their lap times are astonishing by comparison. Baldi just went 0.8 of a second quicker than Lopez in the second sector alone. So Baldi is determined to get past Lopez. What if he gets him in the final corner?
Oh, he's looking around the outside, but the gap is not there for him. It doesn't quite work out. Baldi's going to have to wait just a little bit longer to get his time on Lopez, but the closeness between both of them, I mean, he can't line this up in a turn 2, can he? He can't do. He's trying to. He can't go. He tried to summon a dummy there. Made him think he was going for turn 2, but he didn't do. But they are still nose to tail as they come around the first couple of corners of this lap. Gergo Baldi giving no quarter to find Lopez. Lopez not returning said quarter, and Gergo Baldi might be forced to push the coin return button if he wants his quarter back. But he's going for it now, and he can't make it work. Lopez is too good.
Battle of the season so far, without any shadow of a doubt. Lopez versus Baldi is nail-biting grandstand motorsport right here, as Lopez again gets a better exit out of turn 8 round the right-hander, and that gives him a little bit of breathing space on Gergo Baldi through the first DRS zone. Baldi will get back on his toe, but he certainly won't be close enough to chuck it up the inside. It's too early in the race to go for the Gilles Villeneuve Banzai, so he's got to wait a little bit longer. Now, the difficulty they've got is they've got Ben Horrell up the road that they're going to be lapping at about the same time that they go wheel to wheel as Capit pits. So Capit is pitting. We'll try to keep up with that, but I can't take my eyes off this Lopez versus Baldi. Baldi's determined. He switches one way, switches the other. He's got a lot more speed. Lopez has got to hold this inside line, and he's got to shut the door. Horrell goes wide. They are not going to get held up by him. Lopez holds the place for now. Baldi dives again down the inside. That was never going to work in a month of Sundays. Morris pits too.
Yeah, Morris in, a couple of cars into the pits now. Baldi, Lopez, I mean, that move from Gergo Baldi might actually hinder him more than it's helped him than anything, because he's lost time because he was just getting it back in the last turn. These two cannot lose sight of each other these races. You're probably going to have to prize them apart.
This is an incredible move and an incredible battle between these two as they continue to push. What I want to know is, did Baldi actually strike the wall when he turned in very sharply for the right-hander? I couldn't tell if he made contact with the wall or not. Now, Morris has rejoined. He is 10 seconds up the road from this battle between Lopez and Baldi. Franchech, Jupanek, and Cooper are all in the pits. I think Ryan Walker has just been in. Oh, it's getting close again!
He tried, didn't he? He looked for it, but it didn't work. But under DRS, maybe it'll be this time lucky for Gergel. But Fran Lopez is putting that car in all lives and gets a squiggle on that 10. Van Buren pits as the lead, and that's fairly important. But I just can't keep my eyes off this battle, as you rightly say. These two just not giving each other any room at all. Baldi's going to probably have a look here, or is he know he's too far behind this time?
I tell you what, if Dijon versus Arnoux at 1979's F1 French Grand Prix was watchable, this is in the same league as that. Lopez versus Baldi. These two just continue to battle, tooth and nail, nose to tail, flat on the throttle, pushing each other around the circuit. Lopez working hard on the super softs. Baldi working absolutely lividly on the ultra softs. And still these two second guess each other, leave the door open, slam it shut in each other's face, trading blows, left here, hook there, line and sinker. This is brilliant motor racing between these two. Both of them are making mistakes. Both of them are making choice moves. They are absolutely in each other's heads right now.
Both of them absolutely a presence in the other's head, that is for certain. Baldi and Lopez can't get each other out of their minds, can't get each other out of their own rear view mirrors and front view mirrors and general viewing spaces. Neither is going anywhere at the moment, but I think now, if I must be honest, it is probably Fran Lopez who's starting to pull away here. He's going to have more tyre life than Baldi, and Baldi, as quick as he was, probably won't be able to keep it up for too much longer on those wearing tyres.
Well, I tell you what, the Adonis engineering team must be having a nosebleed out of sheer fear right now, because Dennis Jordan is having similar headaches with Thomas Hinz at the moment, as again Baldi has a look to Lopez. Again Lopez slams the door shut. Again Gergo Baldi is screaming, what do I have to do to get this guy? What does he want? Blood samples or what? This is mental. Just how much hard work he's having to go into this battle, as Lopez again pushes his nuts off out there as he pushes again to try and get Baldi shut down. Baldi goes again. Let's have another look far side. Deep into the braking zone. Lopez has got to hold this inside line and shut the door on the exit. Baldi's going to try and get back on the curbs. He has to use way more than the road than necessary to keep Lopez in check. But Baldi is all over Lopez. I can almost not watch this. It's too good.
It is, it's fantastic. Baldi looks to the outside again, and he actually lifts off this time. It would have gone disastrously wrong otherwise. I think he knew there that he couldn't go for it, but it must be so frustrating. I mean, it's practically doing reverse calculus. It's not difficult to get past Fran Lopez at the moment. I think Gergo Baldi will probably take reverse calculus over this battle.
Right, elsewhere, Cooper's making the move. Cooper's made the move on Jeff Fournier. So just as we're talking about that, Cooper's made the move on Fournier, and further back, Florian Geyer is closing up on Thomas Hinz.
Baldi pits. I think he's had enough of those older soft tyres. I think now he realises he can't get past Fran Lopez. He's going to move to some fresher rubber, and he's not going to do as Lopez does. He gets onto a new set of ultras. Lopez stays on the supers. He's not going to outright copy Fran, but he just needs fresher rubber.
I can't keep staring at that Adonis engineering car without getting a headache as Gergo Baldi pits in for a brand new set of boots. Now, David Franchich and Ryan Walker have been battling. Walker's got no front nose. So what happened there to Walker? Something has definitely happened to Walker. I think it was in the hairpin. No, it was before the hairpin.
I want to go have a look back that then, see exactly what happened. But Walker is in the pits at the moment, going to have to get that fixed. That's going to put the dampers on the Scotsman's great race so far. Probably going to come out behind Thomas Hinz as well, so Hinz will get a promotion to 11th. Walker just leaving now. Yeah, Guyer's going to go through as well. This has been a bit of a disastrous thing for Ryan Walker. He's going to go down to 13th place, and he's dropped significant time now. And, well, Hinz goes into 11th, makes it a 10-11 for Red Archer, but Ryan Walker has dropped right back, and now Lee Morris, the higher-placed Matt Cape by a long shot.
Just looking back to what happened for Ryan, it happened at turn 8. He lost it on the way out of the right-hander exiting the bridge. He got on the curbs, the car went to the left, and bang, he clatters the wall. So it was his own mistake, unfortunately, for Ryan Walker. That's really the first mistake he's made all race, actually. But it is a difficult one, and it drops him back to 13th once repairs have been taken into account. Now, Rudy Van Buren, for the first time, really, is having to deal with the traffic. He's about to get onto the back of Florian Geyer. So that's going to save his tyres and his aero for a little bit as he gets onto the back of Geyer. He's not going to get him here. He'll wait for the next DRS zone and then sweep by. He'll have to do the same thing to Thomas Hinz, of course. But, well, I've only just come off the mountain of that Lopez-Baldi battle, which, of course, could happen again as soon as Lopez pits.
It could. Fran Lopez can find himself in the pit soon, and then it's take 17. Tobias Olsen, though, is in the pits from the soft tyre. He's going to change on to the super soft, so now an update in softness, if not for tyre life. He's going to go for there. Alex Cooper, obviously not pitting as his teammate. They don't want to have a Wouters automotive scenario going on. But, yeah, Baldi and Lopez might find each other close again. Lee Morris has got traffic to deal with, and he's dealing with it well, as does really Van Buren, and he's actually stuck behind Gaia and Hins. Neither really wants to yield to each other. Hins pits, though, and I assume Gaia is just going to lift off a little bit down this straight to let Van Buren through.
Well, from Van Buren's point of view, he doesn't want to do anything silly. Gaia's not letting him go. Blue flags. Why should I let you go through? I don't care that you're Rudy Van Buren. You could be Rip Van Winkle for all I care. I'm not letting you through. So, again, Florian Gaia holds Rudy Van Buren perhaps a little longer than he should do. Now he makes his move. He's going to make Rudy Van Buren wait until it suits him to let him go by. Fair enough. We're in the position where you can do that, I suppose. The thing between Lopez and Baldi just got interesting as well, because Baldi is setting purples every single sector. He was purple in the second and third sector on his outlap, and he's just gone purple in the first sector as well on Ultrasofts. Fastest lap of the race about to happen for Gergo Baldi.
Perhaps so, but that second sector did not look as good as he would have liked it to be. It's not a personal best, but it's still reasonably quick. It's going to come down to a fast sector 3 if he does get the fastest lap of the race. Lopez, though, is still not pitted. So as long as Baldi is pushing these tyres to their extremes, he's probably going to go faster and faster and faster and close the gap down. Maybe even jump Lopez in the pit stops if he's quick enough. And Baldi himself does a 1:39.838, which is not the fastest lap of the race, but it's pretty close.
And it's his personal best. The gap is down to 7.2. I think that's exactly what Wouters is trying to do here. They're trying to shake it up a bit and go, okay, we can't get past Lopez on the road. He's clearly too wide. He's not really being a racing car at the moment. He's being a Buick LeSabre. So we're just going to get ourselves a fresh pair of boots. We're going to get some fast lap times in. We'll close up to him. He's going to have to pit before we even get close to him. So we'll muller him that way. But that's counterproductive to a certain extent, because they run the risk of having to go further with another stint and wear the tyres out faster. So it's a good idea for the moment for Baldi, but long term this could be a problem as Florian Gaia makes a pit stop. Now that hasn't been too long since the last one. I wonder if that's a problem for Gaia. I hope it isn't. But,
no, he's on the Ultras.
Oh, okay.
So maybe the Super Softs weren't working out for him.
Yeah, absolutely. So Gaia obviously deciding, you know what, this is futile. We're obviously a little way back after that little slip up in the pits. I'm going to now go for it and step on the gas. So watch for the Norwegian driver, Florian Gaia here, down in 14th and still in the points, but only just. But watch his lap times now. He's going to be really strong on these Ultra Softs. He's been biding his time and waiting for his moment. We could well see the fastest lap of the race come from somebody outside the top 10, and that man is Florian Gaia.
Could do indeed. Gaia looking very strong at the moment, and he has done through the whole race. Still only 14th, but he's looking all right. And, well, that's really testament to his consistency as well. Norwegian drivers do tend to be consistent. And, well, Florian Gaia, no exception to the rule this time around. And, well, speaking of consistency, we've got managed to get Alex Cooper through consistency back into P8, so great recovery from him. Still on for good position. Olsen in 9th, so 8-9 for Hawkeye on as well. And consistency can be seen throughout the drivers if you look closely enough. And really, that's what it's taken to be successful this race.
Daniele Brambilla on YouTube says, Fran needs to pit now if he wants to stay close to Gergo. You're not wrong, mate. Fran really needs to box because, look, the gap has come down big style. Fran Lopez is only, 2.4 seconds ahead of Gergo Baldi. That is how quick Baldi is on Ultrasofts compared to everybody else in front of him on Supersofts. That last lap, Lopez did a 1:44.4. Baldi did a 1:40.6. He was nearly 4 seconds a lap quicker than Lopez on Ultrasoft tyres.
That's how determined he is, and that's what tyre longevity does for you. I think Lopez really just has to pit. He's losing too much time now, and even then, if he wants to stay remotely close, he's going to have to pit because, well, he's just going to have to hold Baldi. I think Gergo really, with that, is secured in the place. Ultimately, he's gotten the pace necessary to get past Lopez because Lopez has to pit soon. I think Baldi has pretty much done it, and now he doesn't have to worry about getting past Fran on the track.
Well, no, I don't know, because obviously the Ultrasofts don't last as long as the Supersofts, so maybe he'll have to pit again, pushing these tyres to their limit. I think they're just trying to second-guess Lopez. They knew they could be that much quicker than him, so they're just trying to give him a chance to get complacent and think, I've got this in the bag. But now they're just going to have another crack at him, and again, Baldi goes for it. It's round 7 between these two. Lopez is going to die for the pits, so Baldi's going to get the upper hand psychologically, but Baldi has pushed those tyres really hard, so I would not be too surprised if Lopez still has a chance to outfox him.
Perhaps so. Into the pits he comes on to Walter as he's responding to Baldi there. He's gone onto the fast of the rubber. He says, you know what, if you can, I can. And now he's on the same tyre sort of cycle as Baldi. And it's a bit of a weird one. Maybe he knows he can't catch him on track, but he's just going to have to outpace him on the ultras.
I think that's the wrong move. I think Lopez should have stayed on the super softs. He was doing okay in terms of his regular pace. If he tries to push the car too hard on ultra softs to keep up with Baldi, he's going to find it's not going to work, because over one lap, Baldi is quicker than Lopez here. But on the super softs, the longer game, the more patient game has seemed to be working for Fran Lopez. I actually think that's a tactical misnomer. I think Lopez should have stayed on the super softs there. Going on to the ultra softs, okay, it's going to get you some purple sectors and green sectors, but it's not actually going to do much of a benefit, because Baldi has basically psyched him out by being on the ultras and got right underneath him. And it's kind of forced Adonis's hand to go, right, we should go for ultras too. Personally, I think he should have gone for supers. Gergo has actually cost himself by buying himself an extra pit stop. If they'd have gone for super softs, I think Lopez would actually have gained the upper hand.
In the long game, he would have, because then he would have had to pit, and then maybe he would have come out in a closer sequence. I do think that Lopez may be going for short-term gain, long-term loss here, and that may come back to haunt him. But, you know, if that much time is being gained, maybe it's that he knows he can't catch him back up. So just try not at the moment to worry about that, and maybe just focus on his own race now. I don't know. But either way, he's decided to just do that, I guess.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. We have, of course, still got 13 laps to go at the end of this one. Rudy Van Buren, having pitted again recently, he is now on the super softs. But get this, his pace on the super softs is truly astonishing, it has to be said. His last lap time, his best is at 1:39.7. His last lap was at 1:41.2. That is over a second quicker than anybody else, pretty much, is able to go on the super softs. The only one really to run at that same sort of pace on the super softs is Tobias Olsen, who did a 1:41.4. The next one in the 1:41s. Well, Olsen is actually doing a good job on the super softs at the moment, solidly in the 1:41s. He's the only one able to match Rudy Van Buren in terms of staying in the same second of time. But Rudy Van Buren is going nearly a second faster than anybody else on super softs. As I expected, he's just staying on this tyre. It's working for him. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's exactly it. He's just, again, he's cruising to it. And, well, speaking of Olsen, just ahead of him, his own teammate, Alex Cooper, is starting to pose a bit of a challenge to Ben Stepanek here. And he's given a bit of a close run here. Olsen himself was close, but got a massive drop out of the final turn. But he's going to have the DRS to close back on Cooper. Cooper's got the DRS to close on Stepanek. Don't think he's close enough to make a move yet, but he certainly will get closer.
Now, this is a difficult one because Olsen is quicker than his teammate. And we've got... well, this is a difficulty because Cooper is on his 6th stint. I'm fairly sure that Olsen is on his 7th, so they're actually out of sequence, those two. And that could cause a bit of a problem for Olsen because he's going to try and get through, but that's his teammate. They can't really afford to impede each other at this point. Yeah, so on this stint, Olsen is still going well, but Cooper is really starting to get himself into Zupanek. This is going to be a real problem. We may get some team orders here. Cooper might have to get out of the way of Olsen.
Well, Cooper went for the dive bomb on Ben Stepanek there. He went for a bit of a cheeky move, almost made it stick, but didn't. It would have been a very long shot if he had. But I imagine Cooper and Olsen are probably going to be left to race. Stepanek goes into the pit, and now is going to be the test of that. Are these two going to be allowed to race or not?
Well, Baldi, I think, has come in. I think Baldi has made a pit stop, hasn't he? Because he's now behind. He's now behind Lopez, so I'm fairly sure he's made another pit stop. Either that or he's... Well, I was just going to say... I was just going to say either that or he's spun off the road because he wasn't behind Lopez. But now Baldi is back on the race circuit on another set of ultra softs, I believe. Yeah, so again, he's going to try and psych out Lopez. This is why I think Lopez ultimately has made the wrong call because, okay, in this phase of the race, they're on the ultra softs. I think Lopez's tyres are going to fall off before Baldi's do. He might lose 4th position in the last couple of laps of this motor race. Of course, the difficulty was he had to make a decision. What do you do to sort of decimate the gap? And being on the same tyres exacerbates the gap to a certain degree, but Lopez can look after his tyres better if he's on super softs rather than ultras. But Baldi is going at it full guns blazing. The gap between them is now at 3.6 seconds. So this is fascinating. Who's going to get fourth between Lopez and Baldi? Maybe Adonis have got it right.
Maybe they have got it right. I've seen that Olsen's got past Cooper as well. It seems they went side by side through one corner, and Cooper just helped the outside. Didn't fight Olsen too much, but Tobias Olsen still had to work to get it to work. So kind of sort of racing going on there, but still Olsen has now passed Cooper and is starting to drop him here. So Olsen now going to be chasing down Franchit, he's chasing down Baldi, he's chasing down Lopez, and then Morris is stuck behind Menno Clont, who's in last running of the order, but got to get past Clont to get through onto the likes of Captain and Van Buren.
See, now Baldi is only a 1/10 of a second a lap quicker than Lopez, so maybe this is actually the better decision from Adonis. They kind of forced Baldi to blink first, and they've gone, right, well, let's get him to catch us. He'll get right onto the tail of us. The second he gets onto the tail of us, we're going to pit. And then Baldi will wonder what on earth we're doing. What we're actually doing is we're buying ourselves an insurance policy of a pit stop here, as Jupanek and Cooper, well, Cooper having made his pit stop, of course, now rejoins behind Jupanek. Olsen is released then in 7th position, and he's got 8 seconds roughly to make up on David Franchit, who's in 6th position. Can I just remind everybody, David Franchit is in 6th position. He's quietly got on with this, and he's in the top 6. What a drive this is.
Yeah, Bristol Capit pits, but David Franchit is on an absolute barnstorm. I mean, he's just sitting there minding his own business, and P6 is his. Capit doesn't change tyres, he's still on the same compound as he was before, but Franchit, I mean, he's just sitting there minding his own business, not doing anything wrong, and he's going to get Street Fighter a top 6. That is impressive in its own right.
Yeah, the VOD Bulls are going to be on Supersofts to the finish. Lee Morris has taken 2nd position off Risto Capit, but don't forget that Morris has probably got to pit again. So I would expect that Morris is not going to be in a position to get 2nd unless he can make these tyres last a little bit longer. Morris can still get 2nd position because we're on to lap 57. Now, if Morris can make these tyres last just a little bit longer, he can box, go for Ultra Softs, and get on the back of Capit and steal that 2nd place. Because from Capit's point of view, he could probably run on these Super Softs to the flag now. So this is important. Lee Morris, if he can keep his car on the road and keep Capit back. If he goes for Ultras, Morris might just have bought himself a chance to go for 2nd as Franchit pits. So Olsen goes through. Jupanek is not going to. So it's Olsen versus Franchit effectively for 6th position in this motor race as Van Buren pits. Now, Van Buren does not need to pit. I don't think it's been that long since he's been in the pit. So what is Van Buren doing? Is he basically giving Risto Capit some support here to figure out what they're going to do? Or is he just going on to a fresh set? I think he's going on to a fresh set of Super Softs.
Yeah, he's gone on a fresh set of Supers here, and, well, maybe he's going to take those to the end of the race. Fournier has unlapped himself on him, but he's not going to be there for long, I suspect. Morris in 2nd has passed Capit in the meantime. I didn't realise he'd done that, but Risto has actually succeeded 2nd to Lee Morris, who's now on for a brilliant result, but Risto is starting to chase him back down again, and Morris is going to pit, that's why.
Right, now, that's because Capit had pitted. Capit had pitted onto the Super Softs, but what's Morris going to do? This is crucial.
He's staying on the Supers as well.
Right, okay, so actually, technically speaking, Morris kind of has the advantage to a certain degree here because, okay, Capit's gone through, but his tyres are a lap newer than Capit's, and Capit is going to have to be careful here. He doesn't want to pull too hard away from Morris. Morris has a chance to close up on Capit before the end of this race. The gap is about 14 seconds or so. It's pretty stalemate, isn't it? But you can bet that Lopez and Baldi are both going to need to pit again on the Ultras. So it's now a question of who blinks first. I think Lopez, if they time the pit stop right, they might have done enough here to win this 4th position.
Well, ladies and gents, I'm gonna suggest you refill your popcorn because they're within about 0.7 of a second each other. It's happening again.
This could be round 8. Lopez and Baldi, it just will not die. And Baldi, look how much time he makes in the braking zone for turn 5. This is absolutely amazing. Lopez and Baldi, here we go again. And Jergo Baldi once more has a chance to go for Fran Lopez. But these two are now basically racing each other in a pure motor race now. They'll both need to pit again for Ultras to get them to the end of this motor race. Baldi goes the long way round. Lopez is going to keep in there. They almost interlock wheels as Lopez forces the issue. No, Gergo, I'm not letting you beat me now.
No, at this stage of the race, he's not going to be again. He's just shut the door firmly, denied Baldi again, but Baldi will not be denied. He's trying to look down the inside. Lopez covers it, and then he just trying to give him as little room as possible. Again, Baldi on the outside. Again, Lopez with the advantageous line. And again, Fran Lopez holds it.
Oh, this is majestic. This is like watching one of those supercomputers that learns everything against an opponent. Fran Lopez, oh, he makes a big mistake there. This is an opportunity for Baldi. If he keeps his foot in, if he keeps very firm and composed, he might be able to get Lopez into the final turn. No, Lopez collects it back together, keeps himself honest, and now he's making Baldi go the long way everywhere he turns. This is, as far as Lopez is concerned, fine and dandy, because Baldi just needs to be the one who blinks first. As far as Lopez is concerned, he can force Baldi to pit first. What Baldi needs to do is go as long as is physically possible and make Lopez go an extra lap. Because if he makes Lopez go an extra lap when both cars are struggling, Baldi could get the advantage on him, but that's how hard Baldi's pushing. He almost hits the wall.
He's getting his full Kaichi Chisio on there with the drift mode enabled, and he doesn't quite, well, he's lost a bit of time, but he gains it straight back. He is pushing it to its unlimited limit now. Lopez does as well. He gets squiggly. These tyres are starting to run out of life. It can't be long before they pit now.
Well, this is the thing. We're on lap 49, and these guys are still battling away. They've got to keep these tyres lasting as long as possible. Baldi's going to try and beat him to the braking. Lopez has to keep his nose in there. They bang wheels. Baldi's going to get the inside line. Lopez is going to try and get him on the undercut. He actually goes right off the circuit. He's got the DRS for the next zone, but I'm not sure what the officials are going to say about the fact that he had all four wheels off the circuit that time. Lopez is now in the DRS. Baldi's got to basically flirt with the white line on the inside line for the corner. Lopez is going to try and outbrake him. Baldi's got him. Now, Lopez needs to pit now. Lopez needs to pit now.
Question is, will he though? I mean, that was a raucous little battle there. Wheels going off the circuit all the time, and of course, if it was judged anyone did overtake off the circuit, there may be penalty involved there. Baldi's a whole second ahead now, and Lopez pretty much has got to pit his brakes solo, and he must do when he does.
That's the only decision Lopez can make now. He's got to try and counteract Baldi in the hope that Baldi's tyres are going to be absolute murder on this in-lap. So Lopez has done the only strategic decision.
He's gone under the Subas! He's gone under the Subas instead of the Ultras. He's decided he wants the longevity again. But is this, at this point of this race, the bad call? Because Baldi's going to go Ultras, surely.
Do you know what? That might not be a bad call, though, because, yes, we're on lap 50 of 57, but we've already proven that those Ultrasofts, at their best, can only last about 6 laps. So that's interesting, because that would mean that if Baldi is trying his best to get away from Lopez, he's only going to have about 5.5 laps before the tyres fall away. And Lopez on Supersofts, if he gives it absolute gusto, yes, he'll lose about a second or so per lap. But on this out lap, Lopez could be quicker than Baldi on tyres that are sheer murder. Lopez could actually outfox Baldi, and Baldi might actually fall off the cliff before Lopez does. That's very smart thinking from Lopez. It's a big gamble. It's a major roll of the dice. And if he comes up with snake eyes, he's going to feel so dejected. But I'm loving Lopez for playing this tactical game of chance. It's a brilliant Lopez that we're seeing this weekend. Much better than we've seen all year.
Yeah, the loan has been taken out to put the house on Mayfair, but the question is whether it's going to pay out in the long run for Lopez. He has put all his stakes on this strategy, and whether he's going to win big or he's going to lose it all is yet to be seen.
Baldi's making mistakes. He's making mistakes on his in-lap, Josh. This is a real problem. Baldi could end up getting himself into a corner.
Yep, I imagined he would pit now. When he does, he goes a little bit wide there. I'm going to keep a very beady eye on Fran Lopez because this could work.
He's going to beat him out. He's going to beat him out.
Now, what's Baldi going to do? He's going to stay on the Ultras, of course. He has to. He has no choice. Lopez versus Baldi on the exit. It might be that Fran gets him. I don't think he's going to nudge it.
Yeah, Lopez is going to get him by about 4 seconds. Good boy, Fran. He's actually beaten Diego Baldi out with a very out lap. Baldi is now 4 seconds or so back. Now, he'll catch Lopez pretty quickly. But if Lopez can just keep Baldi at bay, he's got the advantage because Baldi's tyres will just dissipate on the last lap. They can't really go longer than about 6 laps at full chat. So Baldi can catch Lopez as much as he likes, but he's got to be careful how he does it. Lopez actually has the joker up his sleeve here. This is Fran Lopez's 4th position to lose because Baldi will be on the faster tyre, agreed. But once he catches him, if Lopez can just keep him at bay, or if he can even force Baldi to lock up into an overtaking move and get him, he can stay behind Baldi. Baldi's tyres will be shot, and Lopez can snatch 4th position back. Lopez has been the smarter driver here. It's a big gamble, but it could work.
It could work indeed if he's very careful, and well, we'll have to see if it does work, because it's going to be a very interesting scenario here as to whether he can get back at him or not.
This is so nail-biting. Who'd have thought that the 4th position battle would upstage the victory? But let's talk about that. It is going to be a Vodball 1-2 if things remain as they are. Rudy Van Buren in front of Risto Capit with Lee Morris. Having done his best, he's still a deficit of 17 seconds to the Vodballs. And 47 seconds back on the leader, Rudy Van Buren. This is Vodball basically getting their mojo back, isn't it? We're on lap 52 of 57, and Vodball are looking in the same sort of form we saw them in at Albert Park, with Rudy Van Buren running a beautiful race. Sochi, again, he was very, very convincing before he got disconnected. But here he is at Valencia, controlling the pace of this motor race. Capit in second. Morris, fine effort from him in 3rd position. He has driven the wheels off that car. He's been absolutely monstrous to get himself in a 3rd position, and a valiant effort there from Morris. We should not take away from him what he has done here today, because he's only 17 seconds off the back of Capit, which is pretty sensational compared to where we are. Here we go again. Round 9, Lopez and Baldi. Now, Lopez has got to keep him back for the next 5.5 laps, basically, before Baldi's tyres become shot. And Lopez has the upper hand. I'm not sure he could do that, but if Baldi tries his best to get away, but he pushes too hard, the pendulum swings back to Lopez. So this could happen 2 more rounds of this.
Could be that we have 2 more rounds of it indeed. And, well, I've got a slight query. Actually, I'm wondering to myself where the DRS detection zone is. But apart from that, you know, I'm not totally sure, like, how this is going to turn out at all, to be honest. I mean, DRS detection, that's the only way I'm wondering. Where are they actually going to get it, you know?
Well, Baldi knows that he's got to go for it. He slides up the inside. He needs to be alongside before they even go for the inside line. Lopez is going to dance with that inside line, push Baldi out. He's got to be careful on his way back through, though. That's a mistake from Lopez. Baldi's going to get him. Now, for me, that could well be Baldi getting 4th position, because Lopez needed to keep him behind him longer than that. And there's a spin right in front of them.
Yeah, there is a spin right in front of them as well. They're going to watch out for that. But Baldi making a decisive move there through on Lopez. Although I was asking about the DRS detection zone, I've just gone back and watched the replay on Baldi's outlap. It looked like he's about 1.5 seconds behind Lopez, but somehow still got the DRS.
So that is very interesting. I'm just trying to figure out who it was that spun off the road in front of them. That was just off the far side. Now that looks to me like Menno Clont. So Menno Clont actually spun it. He's now in the pits, obviously, to fix the damage. So that's a big problem for Menno Clont at the end of this motor. But it looks as though he's going to be able to get, hopefully the car will be repairable and he'll get it out again. But look at Baldi. He's checking out here. Now, even if the thing is, he can't afford to push too hard to get in front of Fran Lopez. If he keeps the gap stable at this, he can get the job done. But if he pushes too hard, he's going to need another pit stop just to get onto fresh tyres, or he's going to have to dance around on ice cubes around this final couple of laps. So Baldi is not safe in the water yet in 4th place. Lopez has still got a joker to play here.
Yeah, I'm still got a joker to play here. Baldi's tyres fall off. I think this is going to be a final lap affair, I think.
Yeah, it could well do. So it's a difficult one. Very close indeed. Not entirely sure how this is going to work out, but Diego Baldi has put himself into a strong position, getting away from Lopez, and that's the difference between the Ultra Soft and the Super Soft. Baldi has pulled out 2 seconds in a lap over Fran Lopez, but notice it was 2 seconds, not 4 seconds. Baldi knows he's got to look after these tyres. He'll be watching the tyre life like crazy to figure out just how much he can push, how much he can get away from Lopez. And ultimately, he needs to go into the last lap, which, don't forget, is still over 1.5 minutes. He needs to be so careful here how much he pushes, because otherwise he is just going to be a sitting target in the final couple of laps.
Yeah, really got to be careful in these last couple of laps, you imagine, as everyone really, because, you know, it can all go so badly wrong in a couple of laps' time. But still, we are going to have to keep an eye on this Baldi Lopez, because if Gego's tyres go and Fran's there to collect him, well, it could still change the scenario.
3 laps to go for our race leader, though, out in front, Rudy Van Buren, as he comes up to lap Tobias Olsen, who is 8th position. That is how strong the Vodbull racing car is when it gets an opportunity to break clear. And you have to say, right from the start of this race, you would never really put the victory for Rudy Van Buren in doubt. He got a strong start. He edged away from the guys squabbling over second position. He just let the Capit, Morris and Baldi battle play itself out and got away and scampered. And he has absolutely decimated the field here. This is more what we saw from him in Australia. The gap is halved, but it is still a particularly sizable gap between the first two cars in this motor race. And this time it really is the 2 Vodbulls. This is more dominant, and obviously the work that they've done from the last round of the championship has definitely been pretty solid. So Van Buren gets a lap on Tobias Olsen. I'm not sure he'll get one on Olsen's teammate Alex Cooper before the end of this motor race, but Van Buren is doing a cracking job. Capit there in 2nd place. Lee Morris is in 3rd position, and again, we've already mentioned how brilliant his drive has been. It's been quiet, but it's been fairly solid. He's almost a minute behind the race leader, but when you consider how everybody else's race has gone, Morris has been very consistent throughout. Now, the battle we're still watching is that of Baldi versus Lopez. The gap has increased to 3.2 seconds, but Baldi has got to be careful. He almost hits the wall. Turn 5, sorry. That was a really big moment there for Baldi. He is so lucky that the car didn't skate into the wall at that point, but he's got to be careful. Overdriving the car like that is going to play havoc with the tyres, and he's still got 2.5 laps to go around this circuit on these tyres. He's not going to be lapped by the leader. That's really what he could do with at this point. But Lopez is still close enough to make this battle count. In fact, the gap has gone down to 2.9. The cliff is coming for Baldi.
Yep, let's hope he doesn't fall off it. That much is the same. We got another battle further back. Ryan Walker's on the reasonably rear end of Dennis Jordan here. It's Adonis versus Madcape in that battle for P10. Not quite as high up the order, of course, but Walker even being chased by Hins. So juicy little.
And Fournier. And Fournier. It's a four-way scrap. Jordan, Walker, Hins, Fournier right at the end of this match for 10th position, so we've got a couple of battles to keep an eye on before the end of this race. I don't think Baldi's safe yet. The gap's come down again to 2 seconds. Baldi's pushed it too hard.
He might fall well over now. Lopez is going to take full advantage.
Oh, Adonis Engineering may have pulled a here. Baldi is now in the negative position of having to defend because he can't pit now. If he pits now, it really is game over. He's got to play defensive. Lopez has been the master defender in this race. Lopez is now the offensive, so he's got to push hard onto the back of Baldi, but he doesn't have to work that hard. The gap as they come across the line is a 1.5 seconds. Baldi is absolutely dropping. And this is a great opportunity for Lopez as Baldi drops anchor. Lopez is just driving his normal pace. He's going to get this.
This is Lopez's to win now, you imagine. Baldi really just dropping off in front. Lopez is there to win this ultimately. Walker's dropped down to 13th in this battle. I've noticed he must have had an issue somewhere along the line. But really, this is Lopez's to win. Baldi's to lose. I've not even realised that Van Buren's on the last lap.
Yeah, Van Buren has started his final lap. Walker has actually slipped to the back of the queue behind Hins and Fournier in the Jordan scrap. So Jordan is now at the head of it from Hins, Fournier and Ryan Walker. Not sure how that happened, but Dennis Jordan is currently looking at 10th position. They're going to continue that scrap all the way. Baldi is now only about 3 car lengths in front of Fran Lopez. That battle is going to go to the death. But Rudy Van Buren has indeed gone on to his final lap, Josh, and it's been an absolutely astonishing drive from him. Capit in 2nd place, Morris in 3rd. Baldi has got Lopez right behind him. Here we go again. I don't believe it. Baldi has got all of the hard work to do now, and he's got to do this for just over a lap to keep Fran Lopez at bay. The gap comes down to 0.5 seconds. Lopez just needs to keep pushing. If he keeps pushing Baldi into a position where he's got no grip, Lopez is going to get 4th place. So, Rudy Van Buren comes down the back straight as he goes into the hairpin for the final time. It is going to be a victory for the Vodbull racing driver. He won at Albert Park. He should have won at Sochi, many people will argue. And he was beaten fair and square by Valters Automotive and Gergo Baldi going into the Shanghai Grand Prix. But now Rudy Van Buren has been given the tools to get the job done in fine style, and he will do just that. Out of the final turn, Rudy Van Buren gets the victory he deserves, wins the Spanish Grand Prix of Valencia in GPVWC Super League. Brilliant effort from Rudy Van Buren. That's the man we knew who could win this race, and he made sure it was his and his alone. Risto Capit is going to make it a 1-2 for the Vodball Racing team. Lee Morris will get third place. Now, Baldi has actually backed off the pace a little bit and picked it back up once more. So Baldi was actually playing Lopez a little bit there, but has he going this last lap? We'll have to double check. Meanwhile, Hinz has got 10th position in front of Fournier. Jordan is 12th. Ryan Walker is 13th, and Jordan looks pretty annoyed with himself at that one. He's actually gone straight into the barriers in frustration. Capit is second place. Lee Morris is going to be third, as we know, but who's going to be fourth over Baldi and Lopez? We're about to find out, because Lopez has got Florian Gaia right behind him, and Baldi, I think, has just been good enough to hold off Fran Lopez. He's backed off and looked after the tyres over the last 2 laps, and that's given him enough life in them to put one more flying lap in. Morris is third, as we know. Gergo Baldi out of the final turn. That, ladies and gentlemen, was the battle of the season so far. Gergo Baldi versus Fran Lopez. Incredible entertainment. Both drivers so brilliantly entertaining. That was the best drive I've ever seen from Fran Lopez. Absolutely cracking display. Lopez is 5th. David Francic is 6th. Alex Cooper is going to come home for 7th position. Tobias Olsen is 8th from Ben Schuberneck, Thomas Hinz, with the final points finishers Jeffrey Fournier, Dennis Jordan, Ryan Walker in a solid 13th. Lewis Redshaw recovers to 14th place, and the final point is taken by Florian Gaia. I'm not sure we would have thought Ryan, Lewis and Florian would be the final 3 drivers bookending the points, but we had Tom Jacobs in 16th ahead of Adrian McNaughton, Ben Horrell, Menno Clont, and then our retirees, Daniel Sharanku, Ben Willis, David Fiduk, Bart DeVosh, and Matt Varley. And when do we ever say David Fiduk is out of a GPVWC Super League race? I think the last time was the 47th of never. Absolutely brilliant result for Rudy Van Buren and Risto Capit. It's a Vodball 1-2, but the headlines have all pretty much been stolen by Gergo Baldi and Fran Lopez. Showstoppers, if ever I've seen them. Absolutely brilliant display out there. An amazing result. So let's see. Well, where do we go from that, Josh? This is absolutely incredible. How do we assess that?
Well, that was just about the best thing I've ever seen between Lopez and Baldi. That was just phenomenal stuff. I mean, hopefully we can get both of them for interview, because that was just an absolute barnstormer for a race. That was perfection in a motor race if I've ever seen it. I could not have asked for a better battle between those two.
Brilliant stuff. Well, let's get Lee Morris in the room first and foremost. He's been waiting, so let's talk to the man who brought it home in 3rd position today. A very valiant podium indeed. Lee Morris in 3rd position. Lee, I know it must be a little bit difficult to be the best of the rest, as it were, behind the Vodballs, but you just got on with the job today and you were solid throughout. You must be happy with 3rd.
Yeah, of course, happy with podium. It's progress. We made a really good progress this week, race pace. We finally proven that we can do it in the race, which is good, because we had the Q pace was amazing. I was so happy with that. And then the race pace was there from the start. I don't know if you saw what happened at my first pit stop though, with Fran Lopez.
What happened there actually?
I think he was trying to overtake a maneuver on someone else, and I came down the pit exit obviously, and he basically went straight up the back of me and smashed me off in turn 1, and we lost a good 15 seconds because of it. Right. Which is why I'm slightly disappointed with 3rd, because we couldn't have challenged Rudy today. We could just about match his pacing sometimes, but we could have had 2nd place. Risto was I was catching him all race again after that, but obviously towards the end the gap was just too big, so I turned the engine down and saved the engine.
Right, so we didn't see that, unfortunately. So thanks for pointing that one out. So difficult race then, when you could easily have been, well, maybe not first perhaps with Rudy, but as you say, 2nd position. So what has to happen now for the next round of the championship? Where can you make an improvement?
Right, well, this week was solely race work. We didn't do any quali runs until about an hour before race today. It was purely because I was so annoyed in them first few races. Every time we qualify well and just go backwards in the race. Today the gap says 50 seconds, but it's not a genuine 50 seconds. We lost 15 because of the accident with Fran. And like I say, in the last probably 20 laps, I just ran on boost 1 and just brought it home. because it's just senseless trying to catch Risto because I'm sure he was just managing the gap. I think we can get second. I think we're now, on a similar sort of pace. I'm understanding the actual sim better. I'm on the pace in the sim. I feel comfortable in the car. All it is now, I believe, is just truly getting the upgrades on the car, because obviously we still are quite far behind. If that starts coming through, like hopefully it should, I really think that we can start to challenge for wins. The consistency is there. Today the car felt amazing. That's the best the car has felt in the race. I felt so comfortable with it. Felt really happy with it. So yeah, it's just upgrades now, I believe, and just keep chugging away.
Well, an absolutely great result considering what you had to deal with. A solid podium there. Keeps you in the championship fight. Good job there, mate. Great job, Lee.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the interview. Cheers, guys.
So there you go. Lee Morris in third position after a close battle. Let's bring the VOD in, Josh. I think they'll be very eager to talk to Rudy and Risto, raring to go.
Oh, well, I think they're going to be very happy chappies indeed. Risto Cabot, we'll start with you. Hello indeed.
Hello.
Well, I don't think you can be very unhappy with the P2, can you, Risto? It was a hard-fought one.
Yes, the position is very good, but the gap to Rudy is still bad.
I disagree.
Well, still, P2, the best you could get without Rudy winning. Well, even with Rudy winning is the best you can get, but Rudy did win, of course. But P2 for you, Risto, it must have been a bit of a testing season at times for you. It must feel good.
Yeah, well, it's still the best result of the season. The qualifying was very hard. I would not have beat Rudy, but I had very weird internet problems, so my last lap was kind of laggy and it got taken away. Maybe I could have been P2, but luckily I had a good start and I went to P2 anyway.
Yeah, and P2, I'm sure you can be very happy for, of course, first ever 1-2 for VOD1 and Superleague as well.
Yeah, I just read that. That's a good thing to do. We planned to do that back in Melbourne. It's maybe sad that it took us so long to do it, but finally it's here. And I think if we could do it here already with our car being a bit down on upgrades, then I can assure you we will do it again in Austria.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not just you feeling so good about that. I'm sure your teammate Rudy Van Buren is very happy with that as well. Rudy, that is your second win in Super League now. It's not 4 from 4. It is rather Rudy Van Buren getting 2 wins. And, well, that should really cement you now as championship leader.
Yeah, that should be good. It's finally a race without too many things happening. PC lasting, setup good, base good. Just everything going to plan.
Yeah, everything going to plan really for you ultimately. And, well, another win in the bank now, and maybe it makes up for Sochi, perhaps.
No.
No, it doesn't make up for Sochi.
That still hurts.
I bet it would still hurt, but ultimately, winner again. You plan to continue that momentum, surely?
Yes.
And in a word, yes. Ultimately,
Okay, so I just wanted to chip in there as well, Rudy, by asking, in the early stages of the race, when it was basically you getting away from the rest of the pack, did you think that there was a chance the field could catch you, or were you always thinking, once you just got a couple of stints of the Ultra Softs out of the way, the Super Soft was always the right way to go?
Yeah, for me, for sure. I knew the Super Soft was the tyre that suited me the best. It was just about getting with a consistent base through the first stint, and then just extending it, going on to the Super Soft. I knew a few guys behind would go a bit shorter on that stint, but that was not in the range of danger. So I just stick to my own plan and exploit that to the max.
It was an absolutely brilliant display again. And do you think the gap is kind of, symptomatic of the progress you guys have made? Obviously, they were catching you, sort of Sochi, Shanghai, but obviously the work that you guys have done on the car, order is restored as far as you're concerned, or is there still a bit more to do?
There's always work to do, but this is the order that we as VBM like. They like to keep up, and I know Risto agrees to that, and even the guy that just joined, Mike, will agree with that. But everybody's working hard, so we got to keep digging at it. But for now, it's all good.
Absolutely. Well, a fantastic result, you guys, and enjoy the 1-2. I did spot, though, at the beginning, one saying the gap is fine, the other saying it isn't. Let's not get Lewis and Nico on this. Come on, you guys have got to stay a united front here.
Oh.
That's easy enough, though. This is Volvo, not Mercedes.
That's something else my team boss gave me, though. I need to thank CBM Storm Charge, Firehound, and Sim News. So.
Oh, well, maybe we
Thanks,
can get a
boss.
sponsorship thing.
Fantastic.
Well, speaking of team boss, Jake, we do have Mike Pittman with us.
We do indeed. Mike, fantastic result for the Volleyball. But you made it look easy out there, certainly.
The guys do make it look easy sometimes, I grant you. By the way, thank you, Rudy, for the nice sponsorship package there. Good work. Bonus in the post. And no, the guys, fantastic teams to be working with. So proud of the guys. That's Volleyball's first ever Super League 1-2, amazingly. But we've had 1-3s before, but 1-2, that's the first time ever. So you've made history there, lads.
And obviously you guys are trying to work very hard when you've got the likes of Wouters who were able to get a bit of a strategic slam dunk last time at Shanghai. Today, I guess you just wanted to make sure that wasn't even a possibility on the cards. Were you surprised by just how far ahead you guys were able to pull?
Well, I mean, last time out, obviously being the rain, it threw up things a little bit. It didn't really give a clear picture. It just shows on a straight, dry track, and as we expected, we didn't quite expect to be this clear, if I'm honest. Rudy might disagree, but it's when you're seeing some people not being able to keep the tyres as long as we did, and using an awful lot of ultras and doing 2 or 3 stops longer than we were, it massive surprise to me on that basis. We actually didn't. If anything, this was around where we would look like we might have struggled because we don't have the upgrades that other cars do. We've got second worst car on the grid, so. Come next round when we actually have all our upgrades turning up as well. God help everyone.
Well, that is awesome. Mike, Rudy, Risto, a class act today. Fantastic work. I'm guessing as far as you guys are concerned, roll on Red Bull Ring in 2 weeks. So congratulations. Enjoy the moment.
Yep. Ciao.
Thanks very much. Great work, guys.
Thank you.
Right, Josh, where on earth do we go next? I suppose we should probably talk to a man at the opposite end of the spectrum. We should talk to Florian Geyer, who drove his heart out there, it has to be said. Florian really worked hard, but ultimately this was just one of those races where it wasn't to be. Florian, we spoke to David shortly after his retirement. Obviously, your race lasted the full distance, but I suppose at times you must have wished for something to take you out anyway.
Yeah, hello. Where do I start off? It's a pretty bad day for us on the team. Qualifying was bad enough for both of us. And I could avoid the carnage in the start. It was, I think, P8 or so. And I felt like it was a lot quicker than the cars ahead. But Olsen was, let's say, he was on the edge. Because he was locking up everywhere, but my setup was pretty bad, so I couldn't get past. I had no confidence in the car whatsoever. So not really much to say. If it was me, I would have parked the car after lap 10 because it was hands down my worst race in sim racing ever.
Wow.
I don't know what to say. I mean, preparations went really good, but still okay. I mean, my PB in testing would have got me P2 on the grid. Same for Dave. So we gotta find out what's going wrong. And because the races before we had good pace, and I think it's maybe just a one-off, but surely not what we wanted.
Wow, I've never heard you so dejected. I mean, I know it's obviously not something we can really joke about. It's a difficult race, but it just seemed like there was, it seemed like at times, Josh, I mean, I don't know if you want to take it over here with your own question, but there was a catalogue of errors, and obviously it all leads down to setup.
Yeah, I mean, setup can be a big part of a Super League ultimately, but I guess if it just it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Ultimately, you did create your own look, and it was a shame to see Florian so far down the order. But I'm sure Florian, he can go into the next couple of races. You are definitely a good driver in Super League. You're one of the best. That's why you're with the current reigning team's champions. So maybe this is just a one-off. Maybe the rest of the season's going to be fine.
Well, the goal's still the same. We want to defend our title, and at the same time I want to win the driver's title, so it has to be a one-off, otherwise the
this thing is pretty much wrapped up for us. But I'm still confident because we always got our stuff together and got the job done in the end. So I'm pretty sure that Austria we will do the same.
Yeah, well, I mean, there is still a lot of Super League season left to go. So I'm sure for you and Norton, it is going to be still, a good season for you in the Reigning Team Champions. I'm sure that we'll see more good results for you and David Fek as well. Thanks for joining us, Florian. Pleasure to have you as always.
Thank you.
Right, so Nick Sanson, one more person, I think, and well, I think we ought to bring him in. It is not, if you'd like to interview him yourself, the Thunder from Down Under himself, Thomas Hins.
Yes, Thomas Hins. Well, Tom, I tell you what, that might not have been the greatest result you could have hoped for, but in terms of picking off some very entertaining battles, you weren't exactly bored out there, were you? You were sport for choice at times.
Yeah, look, I'm absolutely chuffed. I mean, that's I wasn't expecting 10th, especially after obviously qualifying a bit further down. I just couldn't really get a good lap together, and then just plugged away. And obviously at the start, I think it was Cooper and whoever it was had an incident, and so I got caught in that, just kind of a meat in the sandwich, kind of just piled into and had a bit of damage for that first stint. It was, I think, something like 20th or 21st after that. So just sitting there going, if I can just get points, I'll be happy, and plugged away. And I don't know what it was, but I just managed to get the ultra softs to work. So I just stuck with them. In the middle of the race, did the super soft stint, and they just didn't feel good. So I just went with the gut and just went, you know what, I'll just go ultras to the end because they just felt better, and it worked in the end because I just could plug in some good laps. Had some, as you said, some great battles. Had a good pass on Jacobs early on, which is a lot of fun. I'm still a bit chuffed though, to make that pass work. And then just kept plugging away, kept doing the laps, keeping in clean air, kept picking off people where I could, and not fighting people who had just come out of the pits, for example, just letting them on their own, doing my own race. And at the end, found myself on that top 10 battle. Thankfully Jeffrey, kudos to him, let me have a go because I think his DRS must have been bugged because he wasn't getting it for some reason. So I was, so we thought we'll switch and I'll have a bit of a crack. So again, thanks Jeffrey for that, and also great drive for Jeffrey. P11, fantastic stuff from him. In the end there, just got Walker and managed to nab Dennis there before the end, and P10 I was just so there you go. So definitely very entertaining. And considering it's Valencia, I would have been just happy to finish at all. So to get a top 10, I'm very, very happy with that.
Well, it almost seemed as though at times that you guys were going for to keep it on the road and just kind of bide your time and let it all happen. And it seemed like that was the strategy for you guys that certainly came to fruition. That seemed to work for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing I noticed, I was just smoother with the car. I was really minimizing lock-ups, and I was out of the corners trying to be as smooth as I could, just minimize wheel spin and just be smooth. If even I knew looking at the fast laps, I'm sure it'll be the usual story of my laps are never lightning fast. I just try and be consistent. That's my goal, to always just be consistent, make the tires last, and then basically win on strategy or come up the field on strategy. And that's sort of what happened today. I managed to make the ultras last 8-9 lap stints, and they didn't really drop off too much, and that was the big advantage I think I had, because there was other people around me who were doing super softs and they were only managing to last 9-10 laps. So they're only managing to last them 1 or 2 more laps, and their pace was, if not as good, it was worse. So I don't know what I was doing to make the ultras really work, but I'll take it. It was definitely for me just a case of keep it clean, as always, keep it clean, consistent, and just reap the rewards of others falling off.
Well, I tell you what, top 10 in Valencia, top 6 in Red Bull Ring now. Come on, that's got to be the next big step.
If I could be near the top 5, that'd be great. We'll see. I mean, I guess I've kind of showed it at Sochi. I was legitimately sitting in, P5, 6. I know a lot of the fast guys had to come through, but even when they sort of saw themselves out, I was still, hanging on in P5, 6, matching the top guys. So I guess that sort of showed to me that maybe I can actually fight with some of the top guys in SL, which still seems like a crazy thought to me. But we'll see. Fingers crossed. I do like the Red Bull Ring quite a lot as a circuit, so I'll definitely be aiming for top 10, I think, at least. But if I can get close to top 5, that'd be fantastic. So that's definitely the ultimate goal, I think, for next round.
It's great to end our interviews with someone with a really chirpy attitude, Tom. A great race for you, fantastic job, and no doubt we'll see all the best moves from you again in 2 weeks at the Red Bull Ring. Have a good one.
Thank you, Jake, and thanks guys for the broadcast as always.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, every single time, Josh, we get ourselves into this room and we sit ourselves down. We think, okay, we think we've seen some pretty good racing 2 weeks ago. So how does it get better? I genuinely didn't expect to see, though, a combo fight worthy of Foreman and Ali between Fran Lopez and Valencia. I mean, that has just blown me away. I haven't seen Formula One battle that good and, you know, that repetitive to just keep on banging it out there. Stint after stint after stint, so long. That was one of the best racing battles. Never mind sim racing battles I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was an absolute stunner between those two. I mean, they just wouldn't leave each other alone. It's like a brother and a sister just won't stop pestering. He's like, no, you, no, you, no, you. And it's like, they just want to keep going at each other. And, well, if that was good, I don't even want to think how good the next race is going to be because, well, it's just, Superleague just has this thing. It gets better and better and better and better and better. And on the Red Bull Ring next, it's probably going to be even better. And then Monaco afterwards. God, we've got the best races lined up.
Yeah, they are still all to come, of course, the best circuits. I mean, when we get to Spa, when we get to Monza, when we get to Austin, I mean, some of the best tracks are still yet to come, and it's only just continuing on to develop. We have to ask, in terms of team of the day and driver of the day, let's start with driver of the day, Josh. I know we haven't really had an opportunity to take breath and talk about this one. For me personally, I'm going to plot for Fran Lopez. You know, we've seen such a very different guy in the first 3 races. He really pulled out the stops today. For me, he's number one. His battling was fantastic. His defense, his offense, absolutely sublime. A different driver to what we've seen at the start of the season. Josh, your thoughts? Who was the driver of the day for you?
Maybe boring, but I'm going to go for Rudy Cruise Control Van Buren.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, he was absolutely unstoppable. I'm going to guess you're probably going to be a little bit boring in terms of, well, I mean, their first 1-2. Can I see you going down the way of VBR?
Yes. I can't even, I'm trying to deny it, but I can't.
It's fair enough. I'm going to say as well, a bit of has to go to Lee Morris and Ryan Walker. You know, what the boys have done there today, absolutely incredible. I mean, it's not easy when you get a replacement last minute because you're not sure how that's going to work out. But fair play to Mad Cape. You know, Lee Morris did a great job in third, could have been second, as he told us earlier. And Ryan Walker, that's a fantastic comeback if ever I've seen one.
He's well and truly back, isn't he? As is Lee Morris. I think, you know, it may be a case of the old names, but newfound speed.
Absolutely. Well, unfortunately, we could sit here and chat all night, and I know we probably could. We have, of course, got a Super League show with myself, Kasper Kolodicic, and Ben Willis for you guys to listen to in about a week or so. Do please make sure you tune in for that because we'll round up everything and analyse what happened on and off the track and what's likely to happen at the next round of the championship, which is at the Red Bull Ring. Formula Challenge on the Tuesday, Super Cup on the Wednesday, and Super League on the Thursday. Same time, same place, same channel. Do, of course, make sure you tune in for that. A huge thank you to everybody behind the scenes, to Argo Teder, our race director, and absolutely fantastic work again from him. Josh, the pleasure of your company. It's always sensational, and it just keeps getting better. Can't wait for Red Bull.
Well, I can't wait for Red Bull. Well, I need some Red Bull for the Red Bull Ring. I don't know, but I doubt I will. Super League's enough of a blooming wake-up drug as it is.
What an amazing race it's been. 4 races down and 2 wins for Vodbull and for Rudy Van Buren. But the cavalry is still on the charge. Can Lee Morris, Alex Cooper, Lopez-Baldi, maybe even Fran Lopez find an extra gear in 2 weeks' time at the Red Bull Ring? A circuit that is renowned for providing action. One thing we can say is that now we're into the Super League season, 4 races in, 14 to go, still looking pretty sensational. From myself and Josh Anderson, this is Jake Sanson signing out on another great broadcast from the GPVWC Super League. We'll see you at the Red Bull Ring in 2 weeks' time. Bye for now.